Chapter 1. The Divine Land, the Northern Desert. Ice and snow ravaged the entire land. The mountains and valleys were all covered in silver. Heavy snowflakes fell from the sky. Looking from afar, the sky and the earth were all one color. On the winding mountain road, a caravan was resting. The wind and snow were too heavy for the carriages to move. They had to wait for the wind and snow to die down before continuing. "Look, coffin carriers!" A middle-aged man's exclamation caught the attention of the caravan. They curiously looked into the distance. After a few glances, they were all shocked. The wind and snow were howling, and the world became misty. In the distance, a mysterious golden coffin loomed and gradually appeared in people's sight. The golden coffin was 2 meters long, 1 meter wide and 1 meter high. The walls of the coffin were engraved with ancient patterns and talismans. The patterns and talismans emitted a dim light, blocking all the falling snowflakes. It was extremely strange. What shocked people was the coffin carrier in front of the coffin. It was a teenager, about 14 or 15 years old. His upper body was bare and his back was hunched. He grabbed 2 huge cold iron chains with both hands and carried the chains on his shoulders. He was trying his best to pull the coffin forward. In a world of ice and snow, a teenager was pulling a coffin. This scene was visually impactful and breathtaking. The dim light emitted by the golden coffin blurred the teenager's body. People couldn't see his face clearly. In a trance, they seemed to see a god pulling a coffin. This teenager was born with great strength. The middle-aged man exclaimed again. Many people came back to themselves and looked at the teenager carefully. After making sure there was no Xian energy on him, they were shocked again. An ordinary willow coffin weighed 300 or 400 pounds. This coffin was cast in gold, so it was at least 3,000 pounds. Without Xian energy, the teenager was not a real warrior. Even a strong man could only have the strength of 500 or 600 pounds. The teenager could pull a coffin that weighed 3,000 pounds. Although it seemed a bit strenuous, it was enough to shock people. He is so young and handsome, but he is pulling a coffin. Does he want to be unlucky for the rest of his life? An old man sighed. Many people nodded in agreement. Coffin carriers were not common, but it happened occasionally in the history of the northern desert. People knew something about it. When important elders of the big families of the northern desert died, they liked to be buried in giant golden coffins. These giant coffins would not be buried under the ground, but placed at the peak of the ice mountain. It was said that this would protect the people of the clan. When the clan was in decline or met with a major change, the clan would hold a coffin-pulling ceremony and look for a new iceberg to transfer the ancestral coffin of the clan. The feng shui would be changed and the welfare of the clan would be rebuilt. That was where the coffin carrier came into being. Carrying coffins was harmful to one's luck. In the minds of many people of the northern desert, one's luck would be absorbed by the corpse in the coffin. One's profound chi and lifespan would also be absorbed. One would suffer bad luck or suffer from diseases for the rest of one's life. Therefore, coffin carrying was the most humble job in the northern desert. No matter how high the pay was, young warriors would not be tempted. Only the old warriors in dire straits would carry coffins. The young man had beautiful features. He was about 1.75 meters tall, with broad shoulders and a narrow waist. His legs were slender and muscular. He wore an ancient beast tooth on his neck, which made him look very wild. In terms of appearance, he was not bad. He was 14 or 15 years old, had a handsome appearance, and possessed a terrifying divine power. His conditions were not bad. Why did he come to do the most humble and insidious job of carrying coffins? Wasn't he afraid that his luck would be taken away, his lifespan would be shortened, and he would suffer bad luck for the rest of his life? The middle-aged man stared at the golden ancient coffin and said with relief, "This seems to be the coffin of the Liu family?" "That's right. I heard that the Liu family had been through a great change recently. They offered a lot of pellets and Xian artifacts and hired people to carry coffins. It seems that this young man has been tempted. He is willing to sacrifice his luck and life span to carry coffins. Hush, the Lu family is here, an old man suddenly said. Everyone in the caravan shut up and looked into the distance. Woo woo. From the distance came some howls of beasts. A team of warriors in black armors riding on silver wolves rushed over. Before they got close, they could feel the ferocious chi and energy from the silver wolves. Silver wolf escorts. They really are warriors of the Lu family. People nodded to themselves. Within a radius of more than 300 miles around the Wu Ling County, there was only one troop riding on silver wolves. That was the most powerful silver wolf escorts of the Lu family. The silver wolf escorts stopped after they caught up with the young man. A middle-aged man at the front with a long whip in his hand shouted to the young man in a cold voice, "Luli, hurry up! If you can't get to the Black Hawk Ridge before dark, you will not get any reward." The young man called Luli looked up and saw that he was surrounded by more than a dozen silver wolves that were 3 feet tall and 2 feet long. However, he did not show much fear. He nodded and said, "Don't worry, Lord. I will get there before dark." "Go!" the big man shouted in a deep voice and rushed away with the silver wolf escorts. Soon, they disappeared into the vast mountains in the distance. Luli glanced at the caravan that stopped nearby and continued to carry the coffin in silence. He grabbed the huge cold iron chain with both of his hands and carried it on his shoulders. Every step he took was extremely difficult. His muscles were trembling. Even so, he did not stop. Soon, he passed the caravan and walked into the distance. So heavy! After a couple of miles, Luli stopped after he climbed up a steep slope. He was so tired that he was out of breath. He was sweating in such a cold weather. It was not hard to imagine how exhausted he was. He wanted to rest for a while. After he put the coffin in place, he sat on a rock and took out some water and dried meat from the jute bag on his back. He chewed and swallowed to replenish his strength. About a dozen miles. I should be able to get there before dark. After eating a few pieces of dried meat, Luli looked at the sky. His eyes lit up and he said to himself, "I can get a pellet for one coffin. I wonder if the body refinement pellet of the Lu family is really as the legend says. One pellet can increase strength of 250 pounds. If it really can increase strength of 250 pounds, then I only need to carry more than a dozen coffins to reach 11,000 pounds of strength. Then, I can awaken my bloodline. Wait until I awaken my bloodline and become a powerful bloodline warrior. Who else in the tribe dares to bully my sister? Haha, I will soon be able to lead a good life with my sister." Thinking of this, Luli's tired face lit up. He quickly got up and carried the coffin forward. This time, his steps were steadier and faster. Rustle, rustle, rustle. After a couple of miles, a voice came from behind. Luli looked back and his face was a bit gloomy. There was another coffin puller behind him, but this one was an elder. The elder's hand that was holding the iron chain glowed with white light. There was also a faint white light circulating on his feet. He was fast, much faster than Luli. He was getting closer quickly. "Xian energy," Luli murmured enviously. The white light was the Xian energy that only warriors could have. Warriors with Xian energy would be much stronger. The elder had used his Xian energy to move the coffin as if he was flying. The elder caught up with Luli. He looked at him and said with a frown, "Young man, why do you carry coffins as well? This will damage your luck. You are still young. Don't ruin your future for some petty profits." Luli smiled and said nothing. The elder looked at him for a bit and said nothing more. He quickly carried the coffin and left. After the elder was far away, Luli sighed with a bitter smile. "Future? I can't cultivate Xian energy. I can't enter the gate of Wu Dao. If I can't awaken my bloodline, what kind of future do I have? I will be mediocre for the rest of my life. I will be bullied every day and my sister will suffer because of me. No, this is not the life I want. On thinking of this, Lu Li's face became twisted. He roared, clenched his teeth, and carried the coffin forward quickly. The wind and snow were getting heavier and heavier. The sky was getting darker. In the vast mountain path, the dim light emitted by the golden ancient coffin was faintly discernible, which was very strange and enchanting. P.S. A new journey begins. Evil Night is back. Where are the demonic god guards? The 3 books that have been completed have all been subscribed for over 10,000 work. Guaranteed to be excellent. Chapter 2. Quick, quick, quick! At the foot of the Black Hawk Ridge, Lu Li was running for his life. It was getting dark. If he didn't get to the top of the mountain, he would lose his reward. Lu Li had been running for more than half a day with the coffin that weighed more than 1,500 pounds. His muscles were aching and his legs were trembling. It was even more strenuous for him to go up the mountain. The Black Hawk Ridge was very high. The mountain path spiraled upwards for 2 to 3 miles. Although it wasn't too steep, it was extremely strenuous to continue going up. Moreover, the mountain path was covered in snow. If one was careless and slipped, the ancient coffin would slide down. Once it toppled over, not only would he not receive any reward, he might even be heavily punished. Ha! Lu Li roared like a beast. The muscles all over his body tightened, and his eyes were wet with sweat. Everything in front of him was blurry, but he still walked forward step by step. Persevere, I must persevere. There were many times when Lu Li wanted to give up. His legs felt as heavy as sandbags. In the end, he thought of the body-tempering pill. He clenched his teeth and persevered, climbing up the mountain peak step by step. Hiss! Suddenly, Lu Li slipped and fell to the ground. The huge coffin slid down at once. His expression greatly changed. If the ancient coffin were to flip over, the consequences would be unthinkable. Ha! He let out a loud roar and wrapped his hands around the iron chain a few times. Then, he clawed at the ground with his fingers. At the same time, he kicked with all his strength, hooking his legs into the snow and mud to stabilize his body and to slow down the huge momentum of the sliding ancient coffin. Lu Li steadied himself after stepping back for about 30 feet. The coffin stopped sliding. Due to the friction between his knees and hands on the ground, a large area of his skin became red and swollen, and blood faintly seeped out. Hoo-hoo! After making sure that he wouldn't slip, Lu Li breathed heavily. It was okay to be hurt. As long as the coffin didn't fall over, he would be lucky. Otherwise, all his efforts would have been in vain. After resting for a while, he continued forward. Before the sky turned dark, they finally reached the peak of the mountain. Looking at the more than a dozen glowing ancient coffins on the peak of the mountain, Lu Li exhaled in relief. The peak of the mountain was very wide, with 2 protruding sides. It looked like a soaring eagle, so it was named Black Hawk Ridge. This mountain was originally a frozen burial ground for a tribe. Later, the Lu family took a fancy to it and forcibly occupied it. The Lu family was the overlord of the Wu Ling County. All the tribes and families within a radius of thousands of miles had to take orders from the Lu family. It was not a big deal for the Lu family to occupy a mountain. There were many people on the peak of the mountain. There were guards on silver wolves, craftsmen who were building the formation, and elders who were waiting to receive their payment or elixirs after pulling the coffins. This coffin carrier is so young? A beautiful girl wearing a white fox fur coat sat on a silver wolf. She looked to be in her 20s and held a silver whip in her hand. She looked majestic and noble. She was a bit surprised to see Lu Li. He was carrying coffins at such a young age? Lu Li was bare-chested. He was young and handsome, with strong muscles. Overall, he looked good. Especially that wild aura, it had an indescribable attraction to women. Yes, Miss E. Escort leader Lu Wu answered. It is hard to find a coffin carrier. Even though Lu Li is not a warrior, he was born with extraordinary strength. Since he volunteered to carry the coffin, I made the decision on my own. Lady Yi soon looked away from Luli. As far as she was concerned, someone who could not even cultivate Xian energy was doomed to be a good-for-nothing. He was only fit to do the most menial work, such as pulling coffins. Luli pulled the coffin to the designated position. He rested for a while before he took out a black cotton-padded jacket from the jute bag on his back and put it on. It was not that he was not afraid of the cold. It was just that he had to carry the coffin on his shoulders, which could easily wear out his jacket. Every piece of clothing was sewn by his sister. He could not bear to damage it. After a while, more coffin carriers came. Luli counted them. There were 17 in total, including himself. The rest were all elderly warriors, at least in their early 50s. It seemed that coffin carriers were not popular among the young people at the northern desert. Okay, come and get your payment. Escort leader Lu Wu jumped off from the Silver Wolf. He walked to the front of the coffin carriers, looked at an elder and said, 200 golden leaves, mysterious deity pellet, body refinement pellet, and Xian artifact of the first rank of the human grade. What do you want? The elder said with certainty, mysterious deity pellet. Lu Wu took out 2 jade boxes from his chest pocket and threw them over. This elder had carried 2 coffins today. He was a warrior. Even though he was only at the lowest Xian Wu realm, he was much stronger than Luli. What about you? Lu Wu looked at another elder, who also said with certainty, Lord, I also want 2 mysterious deity pellets. Lu Wu was not surprised that several people wanted mysterious deity pellets in a row. These elders were either at the middle stage of the Xian Wu realm or at the later stage of the Xian Wu realm. Clearly, they wanted to reach the next realm with the help of the mysterious deity pellet. If they could reach the Spirit Sea realm, their lives would be extended and their combat abilities would soar. Luli, what about you? Lu Wu asked when it was Luli's turn. Luli said with certainty, I want the body refinement pellet. Body refinement pellet? Lu Wu frowned. The elders next to him all shook their heads. Lu Wu thought about it and said, Luli, even though the body refinement pellet can refine your body and increase your strength, you should understand that brute force alone is useless. If you want to become a warrior, Xian energy is the foundation. How about you get some golden leaves and go back to improve your life? Thank you, Lord. I want the body refinement pellet, Luli said with determination. Lu Wu said no more. He took out a yellow jade box and threw it to Luli. Luli opened the box and found a khaki pellet emitting a delicate fragrance. He was overjoyed. Idiot! Lady Yi saw the passion in Luli's eyes and sneered. As far as she was concerned, Luli knew nothing about cultivation. Xian Wu, Spirit Sea, Soul Pond, Underworld Wheel, Eternal Realm, Noble Lord, Human Sovereign Realm. These were the cultivation realms of the warriors of the northern desert. With every increase in realm, the warrior's combat ability would soar. Powerful warriors could break open mountains, raze cities to the ground, and destroy heaven and earth with a raise of their hands. To become a powerful warrior, one could have unimaginable power, soar to the sky, and enjoy endless glory and wealth. One could become a mayor, a region master, or even a human sovereign realm master. However, all of this was based on the Xian energy. If one could not cultivate Xian energy, he could not reach the Xian Wu realm. Everything would be like the moon in the well or the flowers in the water. Luli was 14 or 15 years old, but he still could not cultivate Xian energy. It was evident that his aptitude was very low. It would be hard for him to enter the gate of Wu Dao in this lifetime. If so, what was the point of him needing the body refinement pellet? So what if he could cultivate his strength to 11,000 pounds? Even a warrior at the peak of the Xian Wu realm could kill him easily, not to mention a warrior at the Spirit Sea realm. Okay. Soon, the rewards were distributed. Lu Wu waved his hand and said, Go back and rest. If you still want to carry coffins tomorrow, go to the Cutting Blade Ridge earlier. It was completely dark now. Everyone had wanted to leave, so they all went down the mountain after hearing this. Lu Li's muscles were sore and his legs were heavy, but he was eager to go home. He ran in big strides and soon disappeared from the Black Hawk Ridge. Lu Li lived in the Delong tribe, about 15 miles to the south of the Black Hawk Ridge. He grabbed the jade box and ran towards the hazy night. After 2 hours, he finally arrived at the tribe. Even though he was very tired, he did not rest for even a moment. He knew that his sister must be waiting for him outside the tribe. Sure enough, by the fence outside the tribe, Lu Li saw a delicate white figure. Looking at the figure covered by the snow and turned into a snowman, Lu Li somehow felt sad. He shouted from afar, "Sister, I am back." The snowman moved. It was a girl about 18 or 19 years old. She was wearing a cloak, and her pale face was exceptionally beautiful. She was much more beautiful than Lady E of the Lu family. However, she was holding a crutch in her left hand. It seemed that her legs were not convenient. Hearing Lu Li's voice, she put on a gentle smile. She was like a blooming snow lotus, breathtakingly beautiful. "Sister, didn't I tell you not to wait for me?" Lu Li strode over and grabbed his sister's cold hands. He said with a slight reproach, "You are so weak. What if you get sick?" The girl smiled again. She looked at Lu Li lovingly and said softly, "I am worried about you. Let's go home. I have made your favorite, the preserved venison." "Okay." Lu Li grinned and helped the girl walk towards the tribe. The girl walked with the crutch and limp. One of her legs was obviously shorter. She had such a beautiful face, but she was a cripple. Chapter 3. The wind and snow were too heavy, and the weather was too cold. The people of the tribe went to the stone house early to rest. Lu Li and his sister went through more than half of the tribe without seeing anyone. They walked into the small stone house in the east corner. The house was dilapidated, with only 3 mud houses. Lu Li helped his sister into the house in the middle. The oil lamp was dim inside, and the charcoal fire was crackling. It was warm. "Sister, sit down." Lu Li helped his sister to sit down, poured her a cup of hot water, and gobbled down the food. The dinner was not sumptuous. There was only 1 meat dish and 1 vegetable dish, but there was a big plate of rice. His sister, Lu Ling, seemed to have already eaten. She sat on the side and watched Lu Li eat. She took off her cloak, and her black hair hung down. There was a gentle smile on her beautiful face. Under the candlelight, she looked like a fairy from a painting. Lu Li was really hungry. He had used up too much energy today. He finished a big bowl of rice and all the dishes before he stood up with satisfaction. "Sister, this is the body refinement pellet." He took out a yellow jade box and handed it to her. Lu Ling took it over and looked at it. She even sniffed it and nodded. It is indeed the body refinement pellet. If everything goes well, you can gain 400 to 250 pounds of strength after you take it. You can take it later. It won't be so strenuous to carry the coffin tomorrow. "Sister." Lu Li frowned and asked in a deep voice, "How can you be so sure that I can awaken my bloodline when I have more than 11,000 pounds of strength? In such a big Wu Ling county, there are less than 30 bloodline warriors, right?" Lu Li had heard about bloodline. There were many legends among the people of the northern desert. It was said that every human had a small amount of ancient gods' bloodline in their bodies. Through special rituals, there was a chance to awaken the god's bloodline and become a powerful bloodline warrior. There was also a chance to acquire the miraculous bloodline skill. The family patriarch of the Lu family, the overlord of the Wu Ling county, was a powerful bloodline warrior. He had a 4th-rank bloodline and had the bloodline skill Blazing Flames. It was because he was a bloodline warrior that he could lead the Lu family to become the overlord of the Wu Ling county. However, it was not easy to awaken bloodline. It would be lucky if 1 out of 100,000 people could do so. For decades, there were millions of people in the entire Wu Ling county. Among them, Only dozens could awaken bloodline above the second rank. Therefore, Luli was very doubtful that he could awaken his bloodline. He couldn't even cultivate profound energy, so how could he awaken his bloodline? If it were not for Lu Ling, he would have turned his nose up at the idea. Yes, you definitely can. Lu Ling nodded with certainty and said, even if 100,000 or 1,000,000 people cannot awaken their bloodline, you can. Trust me. Lu Ling had said this before. Luli asked with a frown after a pause, why? Sister, can you tell me the reason? No. Lu Ling shook her head and said, there are some things you should not know now. After you awaken your bloodline, I will tell you. You only need to remember that as long as you can reach 10,000 gene of strength, you will definitely be able to awaken your bloodline, and it will be a very powerful bloodline. Furthermore, at that time, you will also be able to cultivate profound strength. What? Luli trembled. He could not believe what he had just heard. Ever since he was young, he had cultivated many times, but he was unable to cultivate even a trace of profound energy. How could Lu Ling be so sure that he could cultivate Xian energy after the bloodline awakening? Don't ask. Just listen to me. Lu Ling got up and walked towards her room with the help of her walking stick. At the door, she turned around and said, after you take the body refinement pellet, go to bed early. You have to carry coffins tomorrow. Also, the body refinement pellet might make you feel a little uncomfortable, but you will be fine after you get through it. Lu Ling left with the help of her walking stick. Luli stood by the charcoal fire, still immersed in the shock brought by Lu Ling's words. Xian energy. After the bloodline awakening, he could cultivate Xian energy? He could enter the Xian Wu realm, open the door to martial arts, and become a real warrior? Who didn't want to be a warrior at the northern desert? Who didn't want to be a powerful warrior that could look down on everyone? Who didn't want to stand out and enjoy endless glory and wealth? Consume the body refinement pellet. Luli hurried out and entered his room. He didn't even have time to take a shower. He took out the body refinement pellet and swallowed it directly. Then he drank some water and sat on the ground, waiting nervously. Lu Ling said that it would be a little uncomfortable to consume the body refinement pellet. Luli thought about the miraculous pellet that could increase his strength by hundreds of pounds. His body must have some special reaction after taking it. Hot, sure enough, Luli soon felt something strange in his body. A stream of heat spread from his throat to the rest of his body. He felt warm and comfortable. After a while, Luli realized something was wrong. Because his body was getting hotter and hotter. It was as if he had been thrown into boiling water. His skin began to turn red and hot. Hold on. Luli clenched his teeth and persisted. He sat on the ground with his legs crossed. He held a piece of wood in one hand and covered his mouth with the other so that he wouldn't make any sound. Lu Ling was in the room next door. Luli didn't want her to worry. Woo-woo. Time went by. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, Luli didn't feel like he was in boiling water. Instead, he felt like he was thrown into a stove. The heat was unbearable. He covered his mouth with his hand and held the wood with his other hand. The hard peach wood was deformed by his grip. His 5 fingers sank deep into the peach wood. Drip, drip. Drops of sweat converged on his forehead and flowed down. Luli's clothes were soaked. Veins were popping out on his face and his face was deformed. Crack! After the time it took for 3 incense sticks to burn, the peachwood stick could no longer bear the pressure and was crushed by Luli. At this moment, he finally felt the temperature of his body was getting lower. He was relieved and opened his mouth to breathe in deeply. After the time it took for 2 incense sticks to burn, the temperature of his body had returned to normal. Luli felt like he was exhausted. He didn't care about anything. He crawled into bed, covered himself with the quilt and fell asleep. Phew, after Luli fell asleep, there came a slight sound of exhalation from outside the window. Lu Ling was standing outside the window. She was covered in snow. Clearly, she had been standing here for a long time. She looked at the window and put on a gentle smile. She limped towards her room with the help of her walking stick. What Lu Ling didn't know was, after a while, the primitive animal tooth pendant on Lu Li's neck suddenly lit up. It gave off a faint white light, flickering like a firefly in the night sky. Lu Li had fallen asleep. He had no idea that the animal tooth pendant he had been wearing for more than a decade could glow. The next day, before dawn, Lu Li woke up. He would wake up at this time every day. It had become a stable biological clock. The animal tooth pendant that had been glowing for half the night had returned to its original appearance. It was primitive and dark yellow, just like an ordinary tusk of a wild beast. "Oh, it stinks." He smelled a fishy smell and quickly got up. He found that he was covered in black mud, even his quilt. "What?" He stood up in confusion. After thinking for a while, he suddenly punched into the air. A slight whistling sound came. His eyes suddenly lit up. "My strength seems to have increased. The body refinement pellet worked. Could this black mud be the impurities discharged from my body? Did the pellet refine my flesh and blood?" Lu Li thought for a while and waved his fist in excitement. "Go up the mountain. How much has my strength increased? We will know after we go up the mountain." Lu Li had no time to clean up the bed. He hurried out of the room. He jumped from the backyard and ran towards the mountain behind the stone house. After running wildly for a couple of miles, Lu Li arrived near a round boulder. He looked to his left and right to make sure that there was no one around. He grabbed the boulder and lifted it up. Then he ran wildly in the forest with the boulder held high. The round boulder was more than 3 feet in diameter and weighed at least more than 2,000 pounds. However, in Lu Li's hands, it felt like a piece of paper. He ran wildly in the forest with the boulder held high. He was as fast as the wind, like a human-shaped beast. After running for more than 3 miles in the forest, Lu Li arrived at a valley. There was a pond in the valley. Above the pond, there was a huge waterfall that looked like the Milky Way hanging upside down. The scenery was beautiful. Boom! Chapter 4. One medicinal pellet could increase one's strength by 500 pounds. The Lu family's unique body refining pellet was indeed magical. Lu Li was deeply shocked. He had been training hard for 7 years and only had the strength of 1,500 pounds. Now, in just one night, he had increased by 250 kilograms. This made it difficult for him to calm down. In fact, what Lu Li didn't know was that the body refinement pellet was just a normal grade pellet. If he were to take a heaven grade pellet, he might be able to increase his strength by more than 11,000 pounds. However, for a true martial artist, tempering the physical body was not essential. Every time he advanced to the next realm, his physical body would be greatly enhanced. For example, a warrior at the early stage of the Xian Wu realm only had the strength of 3,000 pounds. When he reached the peak of the Xian Wu realm, he would have the strength of 10,000 pounds. When he broke through to the Divine Sea realm, it would be even more terrifying. Therefore, when Lady Yi of the Lu family saw Lu Li choosing the body refinement pellet, she called him an idiot. For a true martial artist, just having a body full of brute force was meaningless. They could be killed in seconds easily. Profound strength was the foundation of martial arts. With profound strength, one would be able to use mystical profound skills, and be able to derive all kinds of divine abilities. Splitting mountains and splitting the earth, destroying cities, and even killing tyrannical profound beasts were not a problem. Cultivate. I'll pull the coffin later. After some rest, Lu Li shouted with passion in his eyes. Originally, he was somewhat resistant to pulling coffins. It was said that pulling coffins would absorb one's luck and lifespan, causing one to be unlucky for the rest of their lives. At this moment, Lu Li was longing for it. He wished he could carry several coffins a day. Coffin pulling required the body tempering pill, which would allow one to attain the strength of 10,000 caddies, awaken one's bloodline, and cultivate one's dark force. It could open a door of hope, a path to heaven. Luli quickly took off his shirt and pants, leaving only his underwear on. After thinking for a while, he took off the animal tooth necklace he wore around his neck. His sister said that this was the only souvenir his father had left for him. He didn't want it to be washed away by the water. He entered the pool and swam quickly towards the waterfall. The temperature of the water wasn't too cold. He had been cultivating in this valley for 7 whole years, rain or shine, so he was very familiar with everything. The waterfall was very long, at least a few hundred meters long, and the water was very turbulent. He paddled quickly with both arms, moving forward in the roaring river. When he got close to the waterfall, he suddenly hit the water with his arms and kicked off with his legs. His whole body shot up like a shark and rushed into the waterfall. He stood steadily on a boulder in the waterfall. The waterfall that was hundreds of meters high poured down, and the cold river water turned into a roaring water dragon that smashed down. This power was extremely terrifying, and even a boulder that was hundreds of kilograms would be easily washed away. Luli stood on the boulder like an anchor. He didn't move even when the water dragons were smashing at him. His eyes were tightly shut, and his breathing became long and slow. His legs were slightly bent, and his body was as steady as a rock. Ha! After a moment, Luli suddenly took out a long saber from the crack in the stone wall in front of him and started hacking at the waterfall. His slash didn't have any technique to speak of, nor did it have any mysterious move. It was just a simple slash forward. However, his blade technique was extremely fast as a rainbow, so fast that it was impossible to see it clearly. In the blink of an eye, he had slashed 3 times, and this was under the tremendous pressure of the waterfall. 10 slashes, 50 slashes, 100 slashes, 130 slashes. With a loud bang, Luli was smashed down and drowned in the tumbling river. Swish! Luli shot out from the water and sat by the pond with his legs crossed, gasping for air to rest. His muscles were trembling, and his chest was heaving up and down. It was not hard to imagine how much force he had just endured. 130 slashes. My strength has increased, and my body has become stronger. Yesterday I could only manage 110 slashes. Luli was getting more and more excited. He had been refining his body in the waterfall for 7 years. Now it would take a long time for his body to improve even a little bit. However, 1 body refinement pellet last night was equivalent to several months of cultivation. Keep going. After resting for the time it took for 2 incense sticks to burn, Luli sprang up. Once again, he rushed to the boulder in the waterfall. Against the horrifying force of the waterfall, he kept hacking at the long saber in his hand. After more than 100 slashes, Luli was washed down by the waterfall. He went back to the riverside to rest for the time it took for 2 incense sticks to burn, and then rushed towards the pond again. Hoi! After being washed down by the waterfall for the 10th time, Luli threw the black long saber with one hand, and it accurately stuck into the crack in the stone behind the waterfall. After practicing for more than 2 hours, it was time for him to go back. Later on, he still had to carry coffins. He took out a rag and wiped his body. After putting on his clothes and the animal tooth pendant, he walked towards the tribe with the boulder held high. There was once a plague in the valley, and many beasts died. Almost no one came to the Delong tribe. For the past 7 years, Luli had been cultivating here, and he had never met anyone. The sky was already bright, and there were several rays of light coming from the east. It had been snowing for several days, and today was a sunny day. It was a rare day. After throwing the boulder into the forest behind the tribe, Luli did not jump into the tribe from the back, for fear that someone would find out that he had gone to the back of the tribe to cultivate. Instead, he made a detour to the front gate of the tribe. "The bastard is back!" Run, the bastard will eat people. Don't get close to this plague, or we will all be in trouble." Outside the front gate of the tribe, a group of children were playing. When they saw Luli, they screamed from afar and ran away like a swarm of bees. There were also 2 children, about 7 or 8 years old. They picked up small stones and threw them at Luli from afar. Luli fiercely glared at the children, but didn't care too much. He had been called a bastard since he was a kid, and he had gotten used to it. Even when he was a kid, he really thought that he was a bastard. Hey! As soon as Luli entered the tribe, 3 tall young men walked towards him. They were all 2 or 3 years older than Luli. The one in the front was a head taller than Luli. He had a stocky build and a ferocious face. He looked at Luli's face and said in a mocking tone, "Luli, I heard that you went to carry coffins for the Lu family? Is there such a thing?" Another man answered, "My third uncle was at the Wu Ling County yesterday. He saw Luli sign up. He is so young, and he did such a sinister thing? Carrying coffins will absorb people's luck. Maybe even the luck of our tribe will be affected." Another man nodded and echoed, "This little bastard is a plague. When he was born, his parents died. Later, his sister became a cripple. He was born to be a jinx. Maybe he will bring trouble to our tribe. Brother Hu, talk to your father and ask him to expel the siblings from the tribe." The tone of the 3 men was harsh and unkind. They kept insulting and taunting Luli. Luli lowered his head. His face was gloomy. He paid no attention to them and walked towards the tribe. He didn't want to make trouble, but the 3 men were not going to let him go. They stood in front of Luli. The strong young man grabbed Luli's shoulder and said, "What's the hurry? Is your crippled sister dead? Are you in a hurry to go back to the funeral?" Hu. Luli, who had been keeping his head down, suddenly looked up when he heard this. He said angrily, "Don't go too far with your words." "Ha ha ha." The strong young man, Hu, laughed out loud and said provocatively, "What? Are you upset? How about we fight? I promise I won't beat you to death." "Ha ha, brother Hu, you are already at the middle stage of the Xian Wu realm. Isn't it demeaning to fight with Luli? Let me do it. Even though I am only at the initial stage of the Xian Wu realm, it is more than enough for me to deal with this piece of trash. I can do it." "Little bastard, weren't you quite gutsy when you were little? You used to fight with us. How come you have become a coward after seeing the 3 of us cultivate Xian energy these few years? Come and beat me, come and beat me!" The other 2 chimed in. Their words and expressions were extremely provocative. Luli's expression became more and more awful. There was a sign that he could not suppress his anger any longer. Some adults in the tribe noticed what was going on here, but none of them came over to mediate. Instead, they watched from afar as if they were enjoying a good show. "Luli, breakfast is ready. Let's go back and eat." Right at that moment, a cold voice came from afar. Luli relaxed his clenched fists when he heard the voice and calmed himself down. "Crazy woman." Hearing the voice, Hu and the other 2 looked back at Lu Ling, who was standing on her crutch with a cold expression. Their expressions changed. Hu cursed in a low voice. He led the other 2 to bypass Luli and quickly walked towards the outside of the tribe, as if he had seen a dreadful monster. The adult tribe members who were watching the show stopped watching and left to do their own things when they saw Lu Ling coming. "Sister." Luli strode over and helped Lu Ling back to her home. Lu Ling showed no emotion on her face. She didn't look at anyone in the tribe. She just walked in silence. It was not until she entered her own yard that she turned around to look at Luli and said, "A real man is one who knows when to yield and when to stand tall. Luli, you are not strong enough. You will only bring humiliation to yourself if you fight with them now. When you awaken your bloodline, I will bring you to trample the Long tribe. Trust me." P.S. The website of the new book has a rule that we cannot update too fast. Originally, we could only update 3 chapters today. Since everyone has been so generous, I will update one more chapter. Thank you so much. Starting from tomorrow, we will update 2 chapters a day and 3 chapters on Wednesday and Sunday. If you have any questions, you can search for the WeChat account Yaoya588 or follow Wicked Knight and ask the Wicked Knight directly. Chapter 5. The Delong tribe was not big, and its population was less than 1,000 people. All of them were surnamed D except for Lu Ling and Lu Li. They were outsiders. However, the siblings were not outsiders. Both of them were born in the tribe. Their maternal grandfather was the previous chief of the Delong tribe. 19 years ago, the only daughter of the previous chief, who was also Lu Li's mother, rescued an injured young man from the mountains. The young man was seriously injured. While he was recuperating in the tribe, he fell in love with the chief's only daughter. Later, they bore fruit and gave birth to Lu Ling and Lu Li. Unfortunately, after Lu Li was born, both the young man and the chief's daughter went missing, leaving behind the 4-year-old Lu Ling and the swaddled Lu Li, all alone. Several days later, Lu Li's grandpa died in the mountains with more than a dozen powerful warriors of the family. Lu Ling and Lu Li became orphans. After his grandfather's death, Di Ba, who was a master from another branch of the tribe, became the new chief. Almost all the experts in Lu Li's maternal grandfather's lineage were dead, and Di Ba's lineage had always been on bad terms with Lu Li's maternal grandfather. Lu Li and Lu Ling had lost their support, and they were not of the same family. The new chief was not on good terms with their grandpa. It was not hard to imagine how they would be treated in the tribe. For as long as he could remember, Lu Li was often bullied and called a bastard. If it weren't for the fact that there was still a living elder in their grandfather's bloodline, the 2 siblings would have long been driven out of the tribe and left to wander in the wilderness to be eaten by wild beasts. 7 years of training under the waterfall, carrying coffins in a world of ice and snow. All of this was for the sake of becoming stronger. He wanted to take his sister away from the Delong tribe and not be bullied anymore. Awaken my bloodline. I will definitely awaken it. Hearing her words, Lu Li clenched his fists. He went into his room to eat without saying a word. After he had several bowls of porridge, Lu Ling had already prepared a set of clean clothes for him and packed a jute bag with dried meat and water. Sis, I'm going to pull the coffin. Lu Li changed his clothes, carried the jute bag, and walked out of the tribe quickly, ignoring the cold expressions of his clansmen. After leaving the tribe for a couple of miles, Lu Li began to run at full speed. His destination was the Cutting Blade Ridge, which was 30 miles to the northwest, the former ice crematorium of the Lu family. Today's weather was better than yesterday. The wind and snow had stopped. However, the snow was still deep. Lu Li ran at full speed, and it took him more than 2 hours to reach the foot of the Cutting Blade Ridge. Some old men had already started to carry coffins. When they saw Lu Li, they reminded him and advised him not to do such dirty work at such a young age. Lu Li smiled but said nothing. He went straight to the Cutting Blade Ridge. He took off his shirt and walked forward with an ancient coffin. It took Lu Li a lot of effort to get down the mountain. The path was slippery and the coffin was heavy. Lu Li dared not to pull it back. He grabbed the coffin with both hands and walked down the mountain step by step. After 2 hours, Lu Li managed to carry the coffin down the mountain safely. He carried the cold iron chains on his shoulders and ran for his life. After running for a few miles, a group of Silver Wolf guards galloped over. The escort leader, Lu Wu, saw that Lu Li had a much easier time carrying the coffin today. He asked in confusion, Lu Li, did you consume the body refinement pellet last night? Lu Li stopped and said with an embarrassed smile, Yes, my lord. Lu Wu looked at him a few times and said with even more doubt, You don't feel any discomfort? You don't feel any discomfort? Lu Li did not know much about the body refinement pellet of the Lu family. Lu Wu and the other escorts had all taken it. They clearly knew that after consuming the body refinement pellet, there would be a period of weakness for several days. After 3 or 4 days, the body would completely absorb the efficacy of the pellet and increase its strength. Lu Li's strength had obviously increased, which meant that he had consumed the body refinement pellet. Then why was there no period of weakness? The other escorts all looked at Lu Li in confusion. The latter blinked and said, "I don't feel any discomfort. I just felt a bit uncomfortable last night. I got some sleep and got better in the morning." Freak! The escorts looked at each other speechlessly. It took them a whole day and a whole night to consume the body refinement pellet, but Lu Li consumed it in just one night. How could he sleep well? "Let's go." Seeing that he could not get anything out of Lu Li, Lu Wu waved his hand and left with the Silver Wolf escorts. Even though Lu Li's physique was a bit strange, he could not cultivate Xian energy, which meant nothing to the Lu family. The Lu family was the overlord of the Wu Ling County. There were many warriors of the Xian Wu realm in the Lu family. The Cutting Blade Ridge was actually not far away from the Black Hawk Ridge, only about 25 miles away. If Lu Li did not carry the coffin, he would only be able to travel for an hour and a half at full speed. However, it was difficult to travel fast with a golden ancient coffin that weighed more than 3,000 pounds. Lu Li's strength had increased by 250 pounds, so it was easier for him to carry the coffin today. The journey was smooth, and he successfully arrived at the Black Hawk Ridge before dark. Lady E of the Lu family was still guarding at the peak. When she saw Lu Li coming with the coffin, she was as surprised as Lu Wu. She had taken the body refinement pellet before and felt weak for 2 whole days. How could Lu Li recover in just one night? Could it be that his physique was so abnormal that he could absorb the efficacy of the pellet so quickly? Of course, Lady E was just curious. She was not even in the mood to ask. After she glanced at Lu Li, she looked at the craftsmen who were building the formation at the peak. The ice crematorium was very important. All the remains of the ancestors of the Lu family were in there. The formation must be built to protect it so that it could not be destroyed by Xian beasts. After an hour, all the coffin carriers had arrived and the reward was given out. Lu Li asked for another body refinement pellet and left in a hurry while many people looked at him as an idiot. The efficacy of the body refinement pellet would be greatly reduced and the strength gained would be reduced. However, Lu Li insisted, so Lu Wu and the others didn't bother to remind him. After running for 2 hours, Lu Li made it back to the tribe by nightfall. Not surprisingly, he saw a delicate figure with a walking stick outside the tribe. "Cripple, cripple! Cripple woman, you can never get married." It was still early. Several kids were playing outside the tribe. Every now and then, they would throw snowballs at Lu Ling and insult her. On the other hand, Lu Ling didn't care about them at all. She stood quietly outside the fence like an ice sculpture. Lu Li's eyes turned red as soon as he saw this. He roared and rushed towards them. "Get lost, all of you, or I will beat you up." The kids scattered in confusion. One of the older kids ran into the tribe, hid behind the fence and taunted, "Lu Li, you only dare to bully us. If you have the guts, go and challenge my brother Hua and brother Hu. My brother Hua doesn't even have to do anything. Brother Hu can beat you to death. You piece of trash." The older kid ran away as soon as he finished his words. Lu Li walked over angrily, but Lu Ling smiled lightly and said, "There are people in the world who slander me, humiliate me, belittle me, laugh at me, bully me and humiliate me. What should I do? Put up with them, let them be, avoid them, be patient with them, let them be and ignore them. After a few years, you will see them. Lu Li, you don't have to wait for a few years. After a month, you will see that they are just a bunch of clowns." Yes, after a month. Lu Li nodded heavily and helped his sister back home. After dinner, he immediately went back to his own room and started to consume the body refinement pellet again. After the time it took for 2 incense sticks to burn, Lu Li found that even though the heat from the pellet was still uncomfortable, it was not as horrible as yesterday. He could handle it easily. Carrying coffins for a day was tiring. When the high temperature disappeared, Luli immediately fell asleep. After he fell asleep, the primitive animal tooth pendant began to give out a faint white light, which was extremely strange. Creak! After Luli fell asleep, Lu Ling gently pushed the door open and came in. Her eyes were immediately attracted by the glowing animal tooth pendant. She walked over with a solemn expression and carefully observed for a while. After making sure that Luli was sleeping peacefully and that he was unharmed, she let out a sigh of relief. She stared at the animal tooth pendant for a while and murmured in confusion, "How can this animal tooth pendant be glowing? Is it a rare treasure? This is what Father left for my brother. Father is so powerful, so this animal tooth pendant must have an extraordinary origin." Father. Speaking of her father, Lu Ling's beautiful eyes became misty. She looked to the north and looked through the window for a long time before she murmured softly, "Father, Mother, my brother is about to awaken his bloodline. By then, we can go back to our family and ask for help to rescue you. You must hang in there, hang in there. P.S. Let me talk about the update time. The new book will be updated at 12 noon every day, and one chapter will be updated at 6 p.m. 3 chapters will be updated on Wednesdays and Sundays." Chapter 6. 150 cuts. My strength has increased by at least 400 to 500 pounds. Not bad, not bad. In the pond in the valley, Luli was washed down by the river. He flew out of the foggy pond and exclaimed with a face full of ecstasy. After consuming a body refinement pellet last night, Luli felt very comfortable in the morning. He had endless strength. He immediately got up and went to the valley at the back of the mountain. Today there was less black mud on his body, so the increase in strength was less. However, he still gained at least 400 pounds. Continue. After a short rest, Luli rushed towards the waterfall and started his daily training. For the past 7 years, he had been using the waterfall to refine his body and practicing his knife skills. He had never stopped. Strictly speaking, the way he chopped with his long knife was not considered a knife skill. However, he could not cultivate Xian energy, so nobody liked him in the tribe. Naturally, nobody would teach him knife skills. Not to mention Xian skills, he could not use them even if they taught him. This knife skill was something Luli figured out after many fights. After he was 10 years old, Luli often went to the mountains to hunt beasts to feed himself and his sister. After many fights, he realized that when fighting with beasts, fancy moves were useless. Only the fastest knife could injure or kill a wild beast before it attacked him, and he could survive. Of course, Luli had never used this knife skill on anyone. He didn't even dare to bring this long knife into the tribe. Even though there were always people bullying Luli and his sister in the tribe, there were too many warriors on Diba's side, and Diba was a powerful warrior of the Spirit Sea realm. Once something serious happened, Luli and Lu Ling would definitely be banished from the tribe and live in the mountains. After cultivating for more than 2 hours, Luli walked towards the tribe with the boulder in his hand. He put down the boulder when he was close to the tribe and walked back to his own stone house from the front door. Di Hu and the others did not look for trouble today. The tribesmen Luli encountered also looked indifferent. Nobody paid any attention to him. Lu Ling had made breakfast. After breakfast, Luli walked out of the tribe and went to pull coffins again. Clatter, clatter, clatter. After Luli pulled the coffin down the cutting blade ridge, Lu Wu and the others rode their silver wolves from afar. When they arrived in front of Luli, Lu Wu and the others were shocked again. After looking at Luli, Lu Wu asked with uncertainty, "Luli, your strength has increased by another 400 to 500 pounds? Luli didn't understand and asked, "Sir, one body refinement pellet can increase strength by several hundred points. Is there a problem with that?" This was a big problem. Lu Wu and the escorts looked at each other. They all looked at Lu Li as if he was a monster. Yesterday, they did not remind Lu Li because they wanted Lu Li to admit defeat and give up on choosing the body refinement pellet. Any pill that was consumed in excess would have its medicinal efficacy greatly reduced, especially this kind of pill that tempered the body. If one took too many medicines, the body would develop a resistance to the medicine and would not be able to absorb all the medicinal effects. A lot of the medicinal effects would be wasted. Many of Lu Wuhe's bodyguards had taken more than 2 body-tempering pills. They clearly remembered that the first body-tempering pill could increase their strength by 400 to 500 gene, while the second body-tempering pill could only increase their strength by 100 to 200 gene. Lu Li had taken 2 body refinement pellets for 2 days in a row. Not only did he not suffer from a period of weakness, but the second pellet could also increase his strength by 400 or 500 pounds. How could they not be shocked? How did you refine the body-tempering pill? Is there anything wrong with your body? How was your condition when you woke up the next day? Lu Wu asked for more details. Lu Li explained to him honestly. Lu Wu and the others frowned after they heard this. There was nothing wrong. Lu Li's condition was similar to theirs. The only difference was that after they took the second body-tempering pill, no impurities were discharged from their bodies. This guy's constitution is abnormal. Too bad he can't cultivate Xian energy, Lu Wu sighed. What happened to Lu Li could only be explained by his constitution being abnormal and being able to absorb all the medicinal effects of the body-tempering pill. If he could not cultivate Xian energy, no matter how abnormal his constitution was, it was useless. Lu Wu and the others sighed and left. Lu Li looked at them in confusion and continued to carry the coffin. Lu Li's strength had increased to nearly 2,000 gene, so it was easier for him to carry the coffin. This time, he arrived at the Black Hawk Ridge at dusk. Lady Yi. After Lu Li reached the peak, Lu Wu, who had already returned to the Black Hawk Ridge, pointed to Lu Li and Lady Yi and said, "This guy's constitution is abnormal. He took 2 body-tempering pills in a row. Not only did he not have a period of weakness, but he can also gain 400 to 500 gene of strength every day. How about we recruit him into the family and see if we can train him?" Lady Yi was sitting on a silver wolf that was 1 size bigger. She was wearing a purple fox fur coat, looking valiant and valiant. Her pretty face showed a trace of surprise. She looked at Lu Li and said indifferently after a moment of silence, "No, the Lu family only recruits warriors. If he cannot cultivate Xian energy, it will be useless even if his constitution is 10 times better." Oh, Lu Wu was a bit disappointed. He had a good impression of Lu Li. This guy was tough and was not afraid of hardships. He was as stubborn as an ox. When Lu Wu saw Lu Li, he could see himself in his youth. After Lu Li put the coffin in place, he waited quietly on the side. There seemed to be fewer people carrying the coffin today. It seemed that some of the elders were afraid that their fate and life would be taken away, so they dared not to carry on. Lu Li was not afraid. Before he carried the coffin, Lu Ling had said that ghosts and gods were purely absurd and not to be taken seriously. Powerful warriors were worshipped by countless people, and they were deified. Ghosts were made up by people. When people died, everything would return to the earth. How could there be ghosts and monsters? She said that if worshipping ghosts and gods every day was useful, then everyone would not work in vain and food would fall from the sky. If ghosts and gods could really protect people, then the people of the northern desert would not have to face a disaster. Lu Li could not agree more. It was a sunny day today. The setting sun in the west cast rays of sunlight, illuminating the entire land in a red glow. The Black Hawk Ridge was located on a high ground. Looking down from the high ground, the scenery was wonderful. Okay. After the time for several incense sticks to burn, Lu Wu's deep voice attracted Lu Li's attention. Lu Wu jumped off the silver wolf and was ready to give out today's reward. Lu Li and the other elders' eyes were burning with passion. They had worked so hard to carry the coffin just for this moment. Whoosh, whoosh! Suddenly, there came a sharp noise from the south. Everyone looked to the south in surprise. After a few glances, everyone was shocked and their faces were filled with astonishment. Along with the shrill noise that was getting louder and louder, a yellow dot in the sky in the south was getting bigger and bigger. It was a huge golden chariot. How come the chariot is flying up? Luli murmured in shock. Lu Wu scolded him in a hurry. Quiet! This is an ancient chariot, a heaven-grade Xian artifact. Sitting on it are powerful warriors of the superfamilies. Luli shut his mouth at once and stared at the golden chariot with his eyes wide open. In that instant, Luli saw 7 or 8 powerful warriors in golden armors standing in the chariot. Even though those powerful warriors had restrained their qi and energy, their qi and blood were still horrifying. The pressure made Luli and the others breathless. Are they the real powerful warriors? After the golden chariot disappeared into the sky in the north, Luli took a deep breath with fear lingering in his heart. That feeling was too horrifying, as if he had seen several horrifying Xian beasts. If only I were that powerful, then my sister wouldn't be bullied by the people in the tribe. Luli secretly clenched his fists. Then he murmured with passion in his eyes, when I awaken my bloodline, I will be able to cultivate Xian energy. I will become a powerful warrior. Powerful warriors, standing above tens of thousands of people, overlooking all living things. They could level mountains with a lift of their hands and decide life and death. At the northern desert, everyone wanted to be a powerful warrior. Everyone wanted to stand above all living things. Having seen the powerful warriors on the golden chariot, Lu Li's desire to become a powerful warrior was particularly strong at this moment. Whoosh! Before Lu Li could recover from his shock, there came another 2 noises from the distance. Soon 2 huge silver-white iron ships whooshed over. The 2 iron ships were bigger than the golden chariot. They were more than 30 feet long and 10 feet wide. The entire ship seemed to be made of mercury. It was like a ferocious beast that was about to cover up the sky. Not only can the chariot fly, but the ships can fly as well? Not only Lu Li, but also the old men pulling the coffins were shocked. Some of them had lived for more than 60 years, but this was the first time they had seen such a miraculous treasure. This is also a powerful Xian artifact. You all shut up. If you anger the big shots on the ship, we will all die. The escorts of the Lu family said in succession. Everyone held their breaths and dared not to make any noise. Not long afterwards, several more golden chariots and iron ships whooshed away. They all flew to the north without any hesitation. To the north is the ice abyss. So many powerful warriors of the super families are going there. Did something happen? Lady Yi and Lu Wu looked at each other. Their expressions became serious. Chapter 7. After receiving a body refinement pellet, Lu Li left in a hurry. He came back even earlier this time. Lu Ling didn't even come out to wait for him. After dinner, Lu Li told Lu Ling about the golden chariot and the iron ship he saw today. The latter frowned and murmured in surprise, "Ancient chariot? Iron-armored ship? Those are heaven-grade Xian artifacts. 3 fifth-rank royal families of the northern desert can't have so many. Are they from the outside? What happened at the ice abyss? Ancient chariot, iron-armored ship, 5th-rank royal families?" Lu Li was confused. He asked curiously, "Sis, how do you know so much?" Lu Ling pointed to an ancient book on an old bookshelf in the room and explained, "It's all recorded in these ancient books. You didn't like to read since you were a kid. Who can you blame?" Ha ha. Lu Li forced a smile. He was active since he was a kid. He always went to the mountains. Lu Ling had a lame leg and basically didn't go out. She read books every day. Little did she know that these books recorded so much mysterious knowledge. "Sis, where did these books come from?" Lu Li asked again. As far as he could remember, these books had been on the bookshelf since he was a kid. Since these books recorded powerful heaven-grade Xian artifacts, they couldn't be bought in an average place. Lu Ling explained. Father left them. Father? Lu Li's eyes dimmed down. He subconsciously touched the animal tooth pendant on his neck. He was very unfamiliar with his parent. It was said that his parents disappeared after he was born. There was no news of them for 15 years. Lu Ling never talked about her parent. Many times, Lu Li thought his parents had passed away. After a long silence, Lu Li couldn't help but ask, Sis, are father and mother still alive? Yes. Lu Ling paused and said. Then she patted Lu Li's shoulder and said, Brother, after you awaken your bloodline, I will tell you everything. Now is not the time. Okay. Lu Li nodded and asked no more questions. He got up and went back to his room to consume the body refinement pellet. Today, he was more relaxed. His body seemed to have adapted to the body refinement pellet. The high temperature was not too high. He fell asleep after he consumed the pellet. After he fell asleep, the animal tooth pendant began to glow again. Lu Ling pushed the door open and entered. Lu Ling looked at the shining animal tooth pendant and made sure that there was nothing wrong with Lu Li's body. Then she frowned and said, Consuming the body refinement pellets continuously will reduce the efficacy of the pellets, but you can still gain 400 to 250 pounds of strength by taking the second body refinement pellet. Is it because of this animal tooth pendant? What kind of mystical beast's tooth is this? Whatever. After sitting for a while, Lu Ling nodded and said, When Lu Li was born, father put this animal tooth pendant on his neck. I think it must be a rare treasure. Father will not harm his brother. Lu Ling turned off the light and left. The room was quiet again. Only the animal tooth pendant was flickering in a faint white light, which looked quite strange in the dark night. I've gained another 400 gene of strength. When Lu Li woke up the next day, he immediately went up the mountain. After some tests, he became even more excited. After refining 3 body-tempering pills, he already had more than 4,000 pounds of strength. 10,000 pounds of strength was no longer a dream. After cultivating for more than 2 hours, Lu Li hurried back to the tribe. After he finished his meal, he immediately went to carry coffins. Lu Wu and the others were already used to seeing Lu Li. He was a freak with an extremely abnormal physique. If he was given hundreds of body refinement pellets, he might be able to cultivate to a strength of more than 10,000 pounds. Lu Wu and the others felt that it was a pity. If Lu Li could cultivate Xian energy, he would definitely be recruited into the Lu family immediately and receive intensive training. For the next few days, Lu Li came to carry coffins every day and got 1 body refinement pellet every day. What made Lu Wu and the others slightly relieved was that the speed at which Lu Li's strength was increasing was decreasing. By the 5th body refinement pellet, he could only gain about 150 pounds of strength. If Lu Li continued to grow at the original speed, Lu Wu and the others would wonder if Lu Li was a monster. Lu Li was annoyed because of this. According to the original speed, he only needed a dozen or so pellets to reach 10,000 pounds of strength. Now it seemed that he needed at least 20 pellets. There were only so many coffins in the Lu family. If he used up all of them, there would be no more body refinement pellet. On the 8th day, Lu Li decided not to go to the waterfall to practice his body refinement and saber skills. He got up before dawn and went straight to the cutting blade ridge. His strength had reached about 11,000 pounds. He planned to carry 2 coffins a day and get 2 body refinement pellet. It had been sunny for the past few days, so the snow on the road was not so deep. It was much easier to carry coffins. Lu Li had wanted to carry 2 coffins for a long time, but he was afraid that the second coffin would not arrive on time and he would not be able to get his reward. Today, he risked his life and ran with all his strength to carry coffins. He succeeded in carrying 2 coffins before it was dark. Roar! Lu Li had just gotten his 2 body refinement pellets when he suddenly heard a loud roar from the north. The roar was earth-shattering and pierced through the sky. All the coffin-carrying elders and Luli were so scared that they trembled. Xian beast, at least of the 5th or 6th rank. Lady Yi shouted in surprise and looked to the north in horror. A Xian beast of the 5th or 6th rank could be as powerful as a human warrior of the Eternal Realm or the Noble Lord Realm. Any one of such powerful Xian beasts could easily level the Wuling County. Luckily, the Xian beast was far away. It should be at the edge of the ice abyss, the most dangerous place in the northern desert. Even so, Lady Yi, Lu Wu and the others looked terrible. Many ancient chariots and iron-armored ships had gone there in the past few days. So many powerful warriors of the superfamilies had gone there. Now, all of a sudden, there came a loud roar of a Xian beast. Even an idiot would not believe that nothing had happened in the dangerous place. From tomorrow on, all of you, pick up the speed of carrying coffins and move the ancestral coffins as fast as you can. When all the ancestral coffins are carried, each of you will be rewarded with 5 mysterious deities pellets or body refinement pellet. Lady Yi shouted and left in a hurry with several people. She had to go back and report to her family at once to avoid any accident. 5 mysterious deities pellets. Many elders and Lu Li's eyes lit up. This was equal to carrying 5 more coffins. Everyone went back quickly to conserve their strength and build up their strength for tomorrow's coffin carrying. The roar of a powerful Xian beast? Lu Ling frowned when she told Lu Ling about it. She thought about it for a while and waved her hand. Don't worry about it. Since so many powerful warriors of the superfamilies have gone to the ice abyss, nothing serious will happen. Take the 2 body refinement pellets tonight and try to increase your strength to more than 11,000 pounds as soon as possible. Okay. Luli didn't feel much when he consumed the body refinement pellets now. It shouldn't be a problem for him to consume 2. He got up and went back to his room to take the 2 body refinement pellet. As he had expected, even though the temperature had increased a lot, it was weaker than the first time. Luli clenched his teeth and endured it. Just like the previous few days, after he fell asleep, the primitive animal tooth pendant lit up again. It glowed for half the night before it returned to its original state. When he woke up the next day, Luli sensed it and found that consuming the 2 body refinement pellets at the same time was indeed much better. This time, he had at least gained more than 400 pounds of strength. Let's go. Luli was getting closer to the 11,000 pounds of strength. He was getting more and more excited. He walked out of the stone house with the jute bag on his back. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Outside, Luli heard many footsteps. He glanced around and found that many adult males in the tribe had been mobilized and were gathering outside the tribe. What is going on? Luli observed with curiosity and quietly followed them out of the tribe. Outside, he saw the chief of the tribe, Diba. There were at least 200 people gathered outside, and some more were on their way. Everyone, listen up. When everyone had arrived, Diba shouted in a deep voice. He was tall and sturdy like a strong lion. He glanced at the tribesmen and said, "The Lu family and the Zhao family have ordered us to guard outside the ice abyss for a month. After we complete the task, everyone will get 1,000 golden leaves." Wow, there was an uproar outside the tribe. There were about 300 people gathered outside, and 1,000 golden leaves for each person was not a small amount. Let's go. The Wuling County was located at the outermost part of the ice abyss. The tribesmen grew up in the mountains and forests, so they were the best hunters. Even though many of them were not warriors and could not cultivate Xian energy, it was not difficult for them to guard outside the ice abyss. Diba left with the 300 men in a mighty manner. Luli walked out from the corner and looked towards the north. He was even more curious. Chapter 8. Luli soon forgot about the ice abyss. As Lu Ling said, with so many powerful warriors of the super families there, what could possibly go wrong? Even if something were to happen, there would be some big shots to deal with it. There was not only the third-rank family in the Wu Ling County, the Lu family, but also several second-rank families. In the worst-case scenario, there were tribe chiefs and warriors. There were many warriors of the Xian Wu realm in the entire Wu Ling County. Lu Li went to the Cutting Blade Ridge to continue carrying coffins. To his surprise, Lu Wu did not come today. There were fewer powerful escorts. Lady Yi was patrolling with the escorts in person. Young Lady Yi made a promise that there would be rewards after they finished pulling all the ancient coffins. Everyone's interest in pulling the coffins was aroused, and they all sped up. Lu Li now had more than 11,000 pounds of strength. It was a piece of cake for him to pull a coffin that weighed more than 3,000 pounds. Under the premise that the ancient coffins would not overturn, he ran as fast as he could. In the afternoon, he had already pulled 2 coffins. If I refine 2 body-tempering pills tonight, I can pull 3 coffins tomorrow. In the past, it was others chasing after Lu Li. Now, it was Lu Li chasing after others. Apart from a few old men at the peak of the Xian martial realm, the others were still working on their coffins. Lu Li's strength now was frighteningly strong. Not even warriors at the middle stage of the Xian Wu realm, let alone the initial stage of the Xian Wu realm. The rapid growth of Lu Li's strength amazed many coffin-carrying elders and escorts of the Lu family. However, the rest of the coffin-pulling old men only took the profound spirit pill and never considered asking for the body-tempering pill. In the eyes of all martial artists, one's cultivation base was always the foundation. Just having brute force was meaningless. At night, Lu Li went back and consumed 2 body refinement pellets. Once again, he gained another 500 to 600 pounds of strength. The second heavenly maiden pulled the ancient coffin as if it was a small carriage. She ran all the way, leaving many old men behind. 3 coffins. Today, Lu Li carried 3 coffins. Of all the coffin carriers, only the 3 old men at the peak of the Xian Wu realm could carry 3 coffins. Many old warriors curled their lips. There weren't many coffins left. If Lu Li were to drag them away like this, there wouldn't be many left for them. The effects of the body-tempering pill are getting weaker and weaker. Lu Li consumed 3 body refinement pellets in one night, but he only gained 700 or 800 strength. He was a bit upset. When he first refined the first body-tempering pill, he gained 250 kilograms of strength. But now Lu Li's strength was at least more than 8,500 pounds. More than 11,000 pounds was within reach. His heart was burning with passion. Early in the morning, he prepared to pull the 4 coffins and refine the 4 body-tempering pills together to see how much strength he could gain. 3 days. Lu Li secretly calculated that in 3 days at most, he would be able to get enough body refinement pellets to enhance his physical strength to more than 11,000 pounds. Then he could go to the Wu Ling County to awaken his bloodline. Bloodline warriors. They were the strongest warriors. Every bloodline warrior would be favored and recruited by the great clans. Moreover, he would be able to cultivate Xian energy after awakening his bloodline. At that time, the big families would definitely fight to recruit him. Finally, he could leave the Di-Long tribe with his sister and no longer be bullied. On this thought, Lu Li's heart was ablaze. He was filled with excitement. He hurriedly carried the sack on his back and walked outside. As soon as he left the tribe, he ran with large strides. Someone's there. When Lu Li was about 2 or 3 miles away from the tribe and was about to enter the mountain, he heard some hurried footsteps coming from the dense forest in front of him. Lu Li slowed down at once and stood on the side, waiting for someone to pass. Swish! The 3 people in front of him were running wildly. After they turned a corner, they suddenly stopped and looked at Lu Li with ridicule in their eyes. Di-hu, di-gu, di-ping. Enemies were bound to meet on a narrow road. Didn't the 3 of them send food and herbs to the periphery of the ice abyss for the people of the Di-Long tribe a few days ago? How could they run into each other so early in the morning? Lu Li secretly cursed his bad luck. These three had been bullying him since he was a kid and had beaten him at least dozens of times. The last people he wanted to see in the tribe were these three. The sky had just turned bright. Judging from the situation, the three must have rushed over from the ice abyss overnight. That was why they ran into each other. D, who had already walked over with some people. He glanced at Luli with a pair of vicious eyes and said, "Hey, I was wondering who it was. Little bastard, what are you doing up so early?" Luli was in a hurry to carry coffins. He didn't want to make any trouble, so he forced himself not to say anything. Gu, who was standing next to Hu, answered, "What else can he do? Carry coffins. This time, several people of our tribe were bitten by Xian beasts. They are so unlucky. It must be because of this guy carrying coffins, which affected the fortune of our tribe." Ping's eyes turned red as soon as he said this. He said with hatred, "Yes, my sixth uncle's hand was bitten off. It was because of this guy carrying coffins." Luli's face was gloomy, but he didn't say anything. Hu felt bored. He was sleepy after a night of traveling. He waved his hand and said, let's go. Don't worry about this plague. Sooner or later, he will kill his sister." "But that crazy woman's face is really pretty. It would be great if I could have some fun with her before she dies." Hu. Insulting Luli was one thing, but what Luli hated the most was insulting his sister. He looked at Hu angrily and said, "Watch your mouth." "Hey." Hu's ferocious-looking face trembled. This time, when he went to the ice abyss, he saw several people's hands and feet bitten off by Xian beasts. He already had nowhere to vent his anger. How dare Luli challenge him? Hu waved his big fists and coldly shouted, "So what? If you are not convinced, then come and try me. When sixth great-uncle dies, there will be no one to protect you and your sister. I will definitely force myself on your sister. TSK, even though your sister is a cripple, but she has curves where she should. I will touch her." Swish. Before Hu could finish his words, Luli had already made his move. Hearing Hu's profanity towards his sister, Luli could no longer suppress the anger he had been suppressing for years. Today, he decided not to suppress it anymore. Ba brought all the adults of the tribe to the periphery of the ice abyss. They would be stationed there for a month. His strength had increased greatly. Now, he could have more than 4,000 pounds of strength. The most important thing was, in 3 days at most, he could have more than 11,000 pounds of strength. Lu Ling said that he could definitely awaken his bloodline and cultivate Xian energy. Once his bloodline was awakened, he would definitely be recruited by the big families. If so, what else did he have to worry about? Bang! Luli ran like the wind and punched at Hu's chest. His speed was so fast, and it was a sneak attack. Hu had no time to react. He was punched hard and flew backwards like a broken sack. Luckily, Luli didn't use his full strength. Otherwise, Hu would have broken some bones. Even so, Hu was still sent flying for more than 30 feet. He bounced off a huge tree. Gu and Ping were stunned, and then they flew into a rage. On the other side, Hu cursed loudly, "How dare you! All of you, beat this guy up so that he can't get out of bed for a month." Luli was not afraid at all. He looked at the three coldly and said in a deep voice, "That punch just now was you, Hu, who insulted my sister. If you dare to do anything, you will have to bear the consequences." Swish. Gu and Ping treated Lu Li's words as nonsense. Ping's hand glowed. He used his Xian energy and punched at Lu Li's chest. Ping had only cultivated Xian energy for a year. His talent was not good, but he was still a warrior of the Xian Wu realm. Luli could not cultivate Xian energy. In Ping's eyes, Luli could be defeated easily. "You asked for it." Luli's eyes glowed. He raised his head and punched at Ping's fist. Crack! A sound of bones cracking came out. Ping had used his Xian energy. Luli dared not to be careless. He used 70% or 80% of his strength in this punch. Lu Li now had a strength of more than 8,500 pounds. 70% of his strength was equivalent to a boulder falling down. Ah, a sound like a pig being slaughtered came out. Di Ping flew backwards. His entire hand was trembling, and his fist was covered in blood. He held his hand and rolled on the ground. He kept yelling, "My hand is broken. My hand is broken." How Di Gu, who was about to rush forward, was shocked. When they were little, they often fought with Lu Li. Even though Lu Li was brave, he would always be beaten to the ground by the three of them. For the past few years, Lu Li had been suppressed by Lu Ling, so he never had any conflicts with them. However, Lu Li could not cultivate Xian energy. This was an undeniable fact. Just now, there was no glow of Xian energy circulating in Lu Li's hand. How could he be so strong that he could break Di Ping's hand with just one punch? "Take a knife and destroy him." From the distance, Di Hu roared. Di Ping was howling like a pig being slaughtered. The pain in his chest drove Di Hu mad. Today, he was not going to keep Lu Li bedridden for half a month. Instead, he was going to destroy Lu Li's hands and feet. Chapter 9. Good, cripple this son of a bitch. Di Gu's face turned ferocious after being roared at by Di Hu. Today, it was Lu Li who made the first move, and he even destroyed one of Di Ping's hands. Even if the two of them destroyed Lu Li's hands and feet, that clan patriarch wouldn't say anything, would he? At most, he would be punished. At once, Di Gu unsheathed the steel saber in his hand and generated many shadows of the saber, aiming at Lu Li's head. If Lu Li couldn't dodge, his saber could definitely cut off one of Lu Li's arms. Humph! Lu Li snorted and stepped back. He was strong so naturally, he was as fast as wind. These past few years, he had practically never fought with humans, but he had plenty of experience fighting wild beasts. In his eyes, Di Gu was much weaker than a powerful wild beast. He dodged to the left and dodged to the right. Di Gu hacked 3-4 times in a row, but was unable to even touch the corner of his clothes. Instead, he managed to chop off a few small trees. Ha! Seeing that Di Hu was about to make his way over, Lu Li dared not to waste any more time with Di Gu. Lu Li quickly stepped back and kicked on a big tree behind him, making the tree shake and leaves fall down. Lu Li used the rebounding force to bounce back. His long legs smashed towards Di Gu's head with a whistling sound. Not to be outdone, Di Gu wielded his long saber and hacked at Lu Li's leg. Bang! Lu Li's other leg swept across the saber in a flash. A huge force came. Di Gu could no longer hold his saber and was knocked away. Lu Li's other leg smashed at Di Gu's shoulder like an iron rod. Huh? Di Gu screamed in terror. Along with the sound of bones breaking, Di Gu let out a heart-wrenching howl. He knelt on the ground after being kicked by Lu Li. He hugged his left shoulder and rolled around, howling in pain. Di Hu, who was rushing over, was stunned. Lu Li was not a warrior. It was understandable that Lu Li could injure Di Ping, who had only cultivated Xian energy for a year. But how could Di Gu, who had been in the Xian Wu realm for 4 years, be badly injured as well? Kill. Di Hu's eyes were soon blinded by hatred. Di Gu and Di Ping were both his cousins. Seeing the miserable state the two were in, his heart was burning with anger. He wished he could cut Lu Li into pieces. He roared and swung his saber at Lu Li. His saber technique wasn't as crude and wild as Di Ping's. Instead, it had the feeling of floating clouds and flowing water. One move after another, it was like the endless waves of the sea. Mystical skill, water cloud blade. Lu Li's expression became solemn. Di Hu was the second son of Di Ba. Di Ba had a few famous Xian skills, and this water cloud saber was one of them. It seemed that Di Hu had learned some of its essence. Di Hu was in the middle stage of the profound martial realm. His battle prowess was clearly much stronger than Di Ping and Di Gu's. His speed was as fast as the wind, and his battle experience was pretty good. He brandished his steel saber and created a gust of wind. The reason why who was able to sneak up on Lu Li was that he had been on the road for a whole night. Also, he did not expect that Lu Li would dare to make a move. Lu Li had no weapon in his hands, and his opponent's swordsmanship was rigorous and skillful. Lu Li could not see any flaws. He had no chance to hit Hu at all, so he could only retreat and dodge. In a moment of carelessness, Lu Li was cut by the long saber, leaving a bloody mark on his lower abdomen. Fortunately, Lu Li reacted quickly and dodged the long saber. At the same time, he swept his long leg to force Hu to retreat. Otherwise, his belly would have been cut open. Blood slowly oozed out from Lu Li's belly, staining his cotton robe red. Lu Li covered his abdomen and retreated quickly. He stared at Hu coldly and gasped for air. On the other side, Hu was secretly shocked. This little bastard, who had been beaten black and blue by them since he was a kid, was actually so powerful? Hu was at the middle stage of the Xian Wu realm. Among the young generation of the tribe, apart from his big brother Hua and his cousin Han, few could rival him. Lu Li had already used the Water Cloud Blade, Xian skill, but he still could not defeat Hu? No, I have to use weapons. Otherwise, I will be at a disadvantage. Lu Li's eyes flickered. He glanced at the steel saber that was kicked away by Gu. Lu Li took a few deep breaths and shouted. He rolled over, picked up a boulder, and rushed towards Hu. Good. Let me show you what a real warrior is like. Little bastard, if I don't break your legs today, I, Hu, will take your surname. Not to be outdone, Hu rushed towards Lu Li. His long saber danced in the air like raging waves. Lu Li waited until the distance between him and Hu was about 6 feet. Then he lifted the boulder and smashed it towards Hu. Hu laughed mockingly. His body flashed and he waved his long saber, sweeping towards the boulder. Sparks flew as the boulder rolled down, crushing a few small trees. Good! Lu Li's eyes lit up. Taking advantage of this opportunity, he dashed towards the left and grabbed the steel saber on the ground. Yo! Hu sneered. He waved his saber and made some sparks. He mocked. Little bastard, do you think you can defeat me with a weapon? You have no Xian energy, so you cannot use Xian skills. Even if you had a heaven-grade Xian artifact, it would be useless. Whether it is useful or not, we will know after we try. Lu Li tightened his grip on the steel saber and waved it casually to get used to the weight. He walked towards Hu step by step. With the saber in his hand, Lu Li was so confident that he had nothing to fear anymore. Hu clearly felt that the Lu Li with the saber seemed to be different. There was an indescribable momentum in Lu Li. Stop putting on airs, little bastard. After I destroy you, I will go back to the tribe and force myself on your sister. Hu sneered and insulted Lu Li. He rushed towards Lu Li and his long saber turned into countless shadows, aiming at Lu Li's left and right shoulders. Courting death. Hearing Hu's profanity towards his sister, Lu Li's face was filled with rage. He stood still on the spot. When Hu's long saber was about to reach him, Lu Li lowered his legs and swung his saber in a straight line. Lu Li did not know any saber skills, let alone Xian skills. However, his saber skills had a horrifying feature, which was speed. As fast as a shooting star. A flash of saber light appeared in Hu's eyes. Hu's pupils contracted violently. His long saber was about to hit Lu Li. However, if he did not block Lu Li's long saber, his head would be split open. Therefore, he had to use his long saber to block Lu Li's steel saber. As soon as he blocked, something went wrong. Clank, clank, a muffled sound came out, and a surge of horrifying strength came. Hu's right hand trembled, and the web between his thumb and forefinger was torn. At that moment, he almost lost his grip on the long saber in his hand. The powerful strength made his entire right arm numb. Clank, 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 several sounds came out, and several flashes of saber light came out. In just 1 second, Luli had made 3 or 4 moves in a row, and each move was more powerful than the one before. Who could no longer hold on to the long saber in his hand. He was smashed away, and he himself stepped back. His chi and blood were tumbling because of the impact. He could not hold back the blood in his throat and spat it out. No, at that moment, who did not care about the blood he spat out. He stared at the flash of saber light that was getting bigger in his eyes, and he shouted in terror. If Luli did not stop, his head would definitely be chopped off. Luli did not stop. At the last moment, he turned his saber around and smashed at whose shoulder with the back of the saber. Crack! A clear sound of bones breaking came out. Hu and Gu were also smashed to the ground. His left shoulder collarbone was broken, and he was rolling on the ground in pain. Bang! A leg stomped on Hu's chest, and the long saber slid to Hu's neck. Who was rolling and twisting, dared not to move at once. Luli's eyes were filled with coldness. He looked down at Hu and said, Hu, listen to me. Next time you dare to make trouble for us and insult my sister verbally, I will castrate you. Swish, Luli turned his long saber and cut across Hu's pants, accurately cutting open the crotch of his pants. Feeling the coldness in his crotch, Hu trembled. At that moment, he even forgot about the pain in his shoulder. By the time they arrived at the cutting blade ridge, Luli's wound had already healed, and there were signs of scarring. Why are you so late today? Lady E happened to be at the cutting blade ridge. Luli went back and forth several times. By the time he arrived at the cutting blade ridge, it was already late in the morning. Luli was now the main coffin carrier, so it was only natural that she wasn't happy. Luli forced a smile and casually explained, Something happened at home, so I came late. Lady E glanced at the blood on Luli's abdomen. She didn't ask about the details. Instead, she said, something might happen at the ice abyss. Speed up and try to move all the coffins of ancestors in a couple of days. Alright. Luli looked to the north with a heavy heart. The Wuling County was located to the south of the ice abyss. Once something happened there, the Delong tribe might be affected. They had to carry coffins and get enough body refinement pellets as soon as possible. Although he was slightly injured, he was still late today. Luli tried his best, but he still pulled 3 coffins and got 3 body refinement pellets. Give him 5 body refinement pellets. When Luli was getting his reward, Lady E suddenly said. She then added, the extra 2 pellets are for you in advance. They will be deducted from the reward after you finish carrying coffins. Lady E had been paying attention to Luli's abnormal constitution. She was worried that something might happen at the ice abyss, so she wanted Luli to quickly increase his strength so that he could carry coffins faster. Luli was overjoyed and quickly thanked her. He happily ran back to the tribe with the 5 body refinement pellet. As soon as he entered the tribe, Luli noticed that many women and elders were looking at him unkindly. Some of the women even cursed him in a low voice. Luli ignored them and went straight home. He was relieved to see Lu Ling sitting quietly and reading a book. I will consume all 5 pellets at once. After the meal, Luli went back to his room with a burning heart. This time, he planned to consume all 5 body refinement pellets at once to see how much strength he could gain. After he took 5 body refinement pellets and drank some water, a horrifying heat spread through his body. Luli held onto the peach wood rod that he had prepared earlier, clenched his teeth, and endured it. Hot, the efficacy of the 5 body refinement pellets was horrifying. This time, it was even more uncomfortable than the first time he consumed the body refinement pellet. It was as if he had been thrown into a stove to be roasted, and it lasted for a much longer time. After an hour, his body temperature finally returned to normal. Luli wiped the sweat off his forehead, climbed onto the bed, and fell asleep immediately. Soon, the animal tooth pendant began to glow. Lu Ling came in on time. After making sure that everything was fine, she looked at Luli lovingly and walked out of the room. Boom! The next day, in the valley at the back of the mountain, Luli threw the ball-shaped boulder with great force, causing the ground to shake. He shouted with excitement, 500 pounds! My strength has increased by 500 pounds. Now I have at least 9,500 pounds of strength. I can reach 11,000 pounds of strength by tomorrow morning. Luli clenched his fists tightly, feeling the huge strength contained in his body. He was very excited. After 7 years of hard work and half a month of coffin carrying, he was finally about to reach his goal. He was about to awaken his bloodline. Bang! He took off his clothes, jumped into the pond, and cleaned himself up. He did not go to the waterfall to refine his body. Instead, he hurried back home to have breakfast and walked out of the tribe. Luli. Before Luli could walk out of the tribe, a young man came out. He looked at Luli viciously and said, "How dare you hurt Brother Hu and the others? Di Tao has gone to find the chief and Brother Fire. You are doomed." With that said, the young man glared at Luli and went back to the stone houses. Luli frowned. No wonder the tribe was so peaceful yesterday. It turned out that Di Hu had sent someone to find his father and big brother. Di Ba Di Hua. Luli became serious. Di Ba was the most powerful warrior in the tribe, at the initial stage of the Spirit Sea realm. Di Hua was the eldest son of Di Ba and the big brother of Di Hu. He was also a genius of the younger generation in the tribe. Di Hua was already at the peak of the Xian Wu realm half a year ago and could reach the Spirit Sea realm at any time. Luli was no match for either of the two. Whatever. After I finish the coffin carrying today, I can reach 11,000 pounds of strength and awaken my bloodline. By then, even a big family like the Lu family will come to recruit me. So what if Di Ba comes back? Luli's eyebrows relaxed when he thought of this. He looked at his own stone house and ran towards the Cutting Blade Ridge in strides. The sun rose today. The rays of the morning sun illuminated the entire Cutting Blade Ridge in red. Lady Yi stood on the peak of the Cutting Blade Ridge on her silver wolf. Her pretty face was like a painting, graceful and luxurious. Luli was dazzled by the sight of her. Luli. Lady Yi nodded when she saw Luli and asked, "Have you consumed the body refinement pellet? Did you increase your strength?" "Ha ha." Luli grinned and nodded. "Don't worry, Lady Yi. I can carry 5 or 6 coffins today." Freak, the 2 elders next to him rolled their eyes. More than 10 days ago, Luli could only carry 1 coffin a day, and it was quite strenuous. Only more than 10 days had passed, but now, he could carry 5 or 6 coffins a day. They were all warriors of the Xian Wu realm, but they were easily surpassed by a young boy who could not cultivate. Twice a day, not bad. Lady Yi showed a rare smile. She thought about it and said, "Luli, as long as you can cultivate a bit of Xian energy, I can consider recommending you to join the Lu family." Okay. Luli was even more excited. Lu Ling said that he could cultivate Xian energy after his bloodline was awakened. Joining the Lu family would not be a problem. Chapter 11. Luli was enraged. He dragged the ancient coffin and walked like crazy. The ancient coffin that weighed more than 3,000 pounds was like a toy to him. Now, he didn't need to carry it on his shoulders, and he didn't even need to take off his shirt. His 2 hands dragged the huge cold iron chain as he ran. "Little brother, slow down, don't fall over." One by one, the old warriors were overtaken. Looking at Luli running like a wild horse, they did not know what to feel. Some of the elders were secretly regretting. If they had known earlier, they would have taken the body-tempering elixir from the start. Today, Luli had carried 6 coffins. He was only a bit slower than running. He was so fast that many elders were jealous of him. For them, these coffins were equivalent to mysterious deity Pellet. Now, they were all taken away by Luli. The sun was about to set. The sky in the west was glowing. Luli finished the sixth coffin and sat on the peak, panting. After running for an entire day, he had exhausted a lot of his physical strength. However, he did not look tired at all. Instead, his face was full of excitement. Today, he would be able to obtain 6 body-tempering pills. Even if he deducted the 2 pills he had paid for yesterday, he would still have 4 pills, which would be enough to increase his strength to 10,000 gene. Lady E was not here yet, and there must be more coffins behind. Luli had to wait. After the time it took for several incense sticks to burn, the sun had completely set in the west, leaving only a few rays of light. "Why aren't you coming?" Luli was in a hurry. Reasonably speaking, Lady E should have gone up the mountain by now. He stood up and paced back and forth on the mountain peak, praying in his heart that nothing bad would happen. Roar! At this moment, a loud roar of a beast came from 1,000 miles to the north. The roar was even louder and more horrifying than the one a few days ago. Luli, the coffin-carrying elder and the escorts of the Lu family were so shaken that they almost fell to the ground. A surge of extremely ferocious chi and energy came from the north. Even though it was far away, Luli and the others still felt cold and terrified. An old man carrying a coffin trembled as he muttered, This is at least a 6th-grade profound beast, right? Xian Wu, Spirit Sea, Soul Pond, Fate Wheel, Undying Realm, Noble Lord Realm, and Human Sovereign Realm. The ranks of Xian beasts corresponded to the realms of warriors. Xian beasts above the 6th rank could be as powerful as humans at the Noble Lord Realm. If it was a 7th-level Xian beast, it would be comparable to a Human Sovereign Realm cultivator. The Renhuang Plain. He was a Human Sovereign Realm expert. The vast northern desert didn't seem to have any human sovereign realm experts? One could only imagine how powerful the roaring Xian beast was. Woo-woo, chirp chirp. Roars of beasts rang out one after another. These roars were much weaker than the previous one, but they were much closer, as if they were only 200 or 300 miles away. Oh no! A Lu family guard's expression changed drastically. He cried out in alarm, "The beast king of the ice abyss is roaring." The Xian beasts on the outskirts seem to be rioting. "Please don't let the beast tide happen." Beast tide? The expressions of all the guards and coffin carriers changed drastically. If a beast tide were to occur, the consequences would be unimaginable. 15 years ago, there was a beast upheaval at the ice abyss. At that time, more than 100,000 people of the affiliated tribes of the Wu-Ling County were torn apart by the Xian beast. If it weren't for the powerful warriors of the superfamilies, the entire Wu-Ling County would have been wiped out. Whatever he wanted would come true. Along with the roars of beasts and the cries of birds, a ferocious aura emerged from the distant mountain range. In the northern sky, many huge creatures rose into the air, covering half of the sky. Terrifying birds let out shrill cries that pierced through metal and cracked rocks, shaking the surroundings. *T. Luli's face was full of anxiety. It looked like there was going to be a beast tide. Maybe even the D-Long tribe would be affected. He was very worried about his sister. However, he still had several body refinement pellets to get. How could he just leave like this? Wait. The D-Long tribe was located 15 miles to the south of the Black Hawk Ridge. Even if the beast tide were to spread this way, it would reach the Black Hawk Ridge first. Luli had enough time to get back. What was more, there were many powerful warriors of the super families at the Ice Abyss, and countless people of the tribes were stationed there. Lu Wu and the other powerful warriors hadn't shown up these days. They should be stationed there as well. Maybe they could stop the spread of the beast tide. Chirp, chirp, the cries of birds in the north were getting more and more violent. Lu Li and the others looked at the dark night and saw that the sky in the north was covered by ferocious birds. All of them were frightened and terrified. The more than a dozen escorts of the Lu family were also shocked. Lu Wu had brought all the powerful warriors with him. The escorts that were stationed at the Black Hawk Ridge were all at the Xian Wu realm. There were no powerful warriors of the Spirit Sea realm. If a group of powerful flying Xian beasts were to spread this way, there would be a lot of trouble. Get ready to activate the formation. A team leader at the peak of the Xian Wu realm shouted in a deep voice. The Black Hawk Ridge was the ice graveyard of the Lu family. The construction of the defense formation had started a long time ago. The construction of the formation was completed a few days ago. When it was activated, it could easily withstand attacks from Xian beasts of the 3rd or 4th rank. However, the qi and energy of the ferocious birds in the north were so powerful. There might be Xian beasts of the 4th or 5th rank. Even if there were 2 or 3 of them, not to mention a flock, all of them would be buried at the Black Hawk Ridge. Swish, just when many elders were ready to leave in advance, a piercing sound came from the north. A chariot emitting golden glare came from the north. The chariot emitted a golden glare. Countless powerful qi and energy came from the chariot, making it hard for Lu Li and the others to breathe. Powerful warriors of the Eternal Realm. Okay, it will be okay now, the team leader was relieved. The powerful warriors of the super families had taken action and suppressed the ferocious birds. The powerful warriors of the super families would not allow the powerful ferocious birds to wreak havoc everywhere. Bang bang bang. One by one, the powerful warriors in golden armors flew up to the sky. Their bodies were as bright as the sun. Lu Li and the others could see the figures emitting the golden glare, but their faces could not be seen clearly because they were too far away. The powerful warriors in golden armors made their moves. Streaks of huge yellow stripe shot out, lighting up the sky in the north. The ferocious birds were smashed down one after another. Earth-shaking noises came out. Mountains were cracked, and the sound of boulders rolling down came one after another. These are the real powerful warriors. They can flatten mountains, smash boulders, and suppress Xian beasts with just a lift of their hands. Lu Li's blood was boiling as he watched. Unfortunately, the powerful warriors were too far away and too fast. Lu Li could not see them clearly. All he could see were streaks of light and shadows, and streaks of huge stripe. Chirp chirp, hundreds of black dots abruptly spread towards Lu Li. The cries of the birds were getting closer and closer. The expressions of the old man carrying the coffin changed greatly. He rushed down the mountain regardless of anything, not even asking for the reward. Activate the formation, the escort team leader shouted. Lu Li didn't care anymore. He ran down the mountain in big strides. The Black Hawk Ridge was too high, and the target was too obvious. Even though judging from the cries of the birds, the ferocious birds that were spreading towards Lu Li were not powerful, but there were too many of them. Also, once the battle started, it would attract more Xian beasts. Soon, the peak of the mountain glowed in blue, which formed a shield that covered the Black Hawk Ridge, protecting all the coffins. Swish, swish, swish. 3 escorts of the Lu family rushed down from the mountain on their silver wolves. The shout of the escort team leader came from the peak of the mountain. We will hold them off for now. You go and find Lady E and go back to the family to ask for help. Lady E? Lu Li, who was running down the mountain, suddenly stopped. Recently, the pellets were all given out by the elder next to Lady E. If he followed these escorts to find Lady E, would he be able to get the body refinement pellet? Without the body refinement pellet, it would be difficult for Lu Li to reach the strength of more than 11,000 pounds, and he would not be able to awaken his bloodline power. Seeing that he was about to reach the strength of more than 11,000 pounds, he was not willing to give up. Let's go. After a moment, Lu Li made up his mind and went to find Lady E. Chapter 12. Having made up his mind, Luli ran for his life, following the escorts of the Lu family along the mountain path. However, the escorts of the Lu family were all on silver wolves. They were so fast that Luli lost track of them in an instant. Chase. Lady E was sent by the Lu family to supervise the coffin carrying. She should be between the Cutting Blade Ridge and the Black Hawk Ridge. Luli ran wildly along the mountain trail of the coffin carrying to find Lady E to ask for the body refinement pellet. Chirp chirp. After running for 5 kilometers, the cries of birds could be heard coming from the Black Hawk Ridge. Luli looked back and vaguely saw hundreds of ferocious birds attacking the blue shield at the top of the Black Hawk Ridge. However, from the looks of it, the grade of the vicious bird wasn't high, and the blue barrier wasn't broken. Escorts of the Lu family would take care of the ice crematorium of the Lu family. Luli paid no more attention to them and rushed along the mountain path. The night was completely dark. The weather tonight was not bad, and there was a hazy moonlight. Luli was very familiar with this path. He ran forward in strides without stopping for even a moment. Luli stopped after running for another 3 or 4 miles. The cries of birds and the angry shouts of martial artists could be heard from the front. After some thoughts, Luli climbed to the top of a hill and looked into the distance. There was a faint glow over there. Luli understood after a few glances. That was a glow coming from an ancestral coffin of the Lu family. Miss E is over there. Luli saw a purple figure with a purple whip in her hand. She was covered in a white glare, and the whip was glistening in purple. Clearly, it was a Xian artifact. There were also 7 or 8 martial artists around Miss E. The 3 bodyguards from earlier were also beside Miss E. All of them were surrounded by a flock of large red birds. At a glance, there were at least 100 of them, and all of them were fighting fiercely. 2 guards were injured, and half of their bodies were covered in blood. The big red bird was obviously a Xian beast. The red feathers on its body were like scales, emitting a faint red light. Its pair of red iron claws looked like they had been burned red by fire, also emitting a red light. First-rank Xian beast, red phosphorus hawk. Luli was relieved to know this kind of Xian beast. He had encountered this kind of Xian beast before. Its attack power wasn't too strong, but its defense was terrifying. 2 years ago, he was chased by a red phosphorus hawk for more than 10 miles. In the end, he escaped into a mountain forest and survived. The red phosphorus hawks were indeed not that strong, but the problem was that there were too many of them. Over 100 red phosphorus hawks attacked continuously, but there were only 7 or 8 people by Lady Yi's side. It was very difficult to defend against them. That Miss E is quite strong. It seems like she has reached the peak of the Xian realm. Luli exclaimed to himself. Lady E was only 1 or 2 years older than him, but she had reached the peak of the Xian Wu realm. Even though she was born in a big family, her aptitude was quite good. What should we do? Lady Yi's group was surrounded by the red phosphorus hawks. If he were to approach them, he would definitely be attacked by the red phosphorus hawks. If he was not careful, he would lose his life. If I had known, I would have snatched Di Gu's saber. Luli was a bit regretful. Without a weapon, he would be at a disadvantage against the red phosphorus hawks. The attack of the red phosphorus hawk was not terrifying, but if he was scratched by its claws or pecked by its beak, he would definitely be severely injured. Luli was about a mile away from the battlefield. He was hiding behind the stone peak, so the red phosphorus hawks did not notice him. If they were to retreat now, there would be no problem at all. Let's take the risk. Finally, he made up his mind and shouted. Lady E and the others were barely able to fight against the nearly 100 red phosphorus hawks. It was very likely that they would all die. If they were all dead, where could he get the body refinement pellets? The Lu family would not accept it. Since he was already here, he was not willing to leave just like this. Now that he had the strength of more than 9,000 pounds, Luli's confidence was greatly boosted. He glanced around and found a wooden stick as thick as a person's thigh. He swung the stick and quietly rushed towards the vicinity of the battlefield. Ah! A cry of pain came out. An escort of the Lu family was scratched on the left shoulder by the hawk's claws. Several bloody holes appeared on his shoulder, and blood was dripping out. If it were not for the help of someone next to him, his head would have been smashed. Hang in there. Lady E waved her whip, which made a gust of wind. She beat back the red phosphorus hawks one by one. She shouted in a shrill voice, "The beast upheaval is on a rampage. The family must be aware of it. They will send someone to rescue us right away. Hang in there." That being said, Lady Yi's heart sank. The Wu Ling County was 30 miles away. Even a warrior of the Spirit Sea realm would need more than an hour to run at full speed. Could they hold on for that long with so many red phosphorus hawks? It was spacious here. There were no woods or caves, so it was hard to escape. I shouldn't have let Lu Wu go, Lady E regretted secretly. The family asked her before they transferred Lu Wu away. She thought they were just supervising the coffin carrying. What could go wrong? Besides, there were so many troops and warriors stationed outside the ice abyss. Even if something went wrong, it would not affect them. However, a powerful beast king roared in the ice abyss, which startled the Xian beasts of low ranks. It just so happened that there was an ancient coffin here that had not been taken to the Black Hawk Ridge. In order to protect the ancient coffin, Lady E and the others were surrounded by the red phosphorus hawks. Another escort was pecked by the hawk's beak. A bloody hole appeared on his back. On the other hand, only Lady E and Patriarch Hong could hurt the red phosphorus hawks. The others could hardly hurt the red phosphorus hawks. The situation was getting more and more dangerous. The red phosphorus hawks had strong defense. The red glow on their bodies could make their feathers as hard as cold iron. Regular swords and sabers could hardly break their feathers. Apart from Lady E and Patriarch Hong, the other escorts were all at the middle stage of the Xian Wu realm. They only had Xian artifacts of the lowest rank. Naturally, it was hard for them to suppress the red phosphorus hawks. Am I going to die here today? On the thought of this, Lady Yi's heart became heavier and heavier. Even when she waved the purple whip in her hand, it seemed that she had no strength left. Bastard, get out of my way! Right at that moment, a roar came from afar. Then a black shadow rushed towards them. He had a huge rod in his hand. He swung it from left to right and smashed 2 red phosphorus hawks away with ease. Help was here. Everyone's spirits were lifted. Lady Yi's beautiful eyes lit up. However, when they saw who it was, they immediately rolled their eyes. They all knew who it was. It was the coffin carrier, Lu Li. When they saw the wooden rod in Lu Li's hand, they were even more speechless. Lu Li could not cultivate Xian energy. He was not even a warrior. What's more, he was holding a wooden rod. Was he here to court death? Punk, go now. Don't come any closer. One of the escorts could not help but shout. However, Lu Li turned a deaf ear to it. He dashed towards them like a swift leopard. He swung the wooden rod in his hand and smashed it on the red phosphorus hawks that were diving down. One by one, the red phosphorus hawks were smashed away. Lu Li was unstoppable. Lady E and Patriarch Hong looked at each other. They were slightly excited. Lu Li was born with extraordinary strength. After consuming more than a dozen body refinement pellets, he had at least 11,000 pounds of strength. He was a good helper. Maybe he could really help them today. Crack! Soon, the light in Lady Yi's and Patriarch Hong's eyes dimmed again. Lu Li's wooden rod was crushed by the red phosphorus hawk. That red phosphorus hawk whizzed down. In order to avoid the claws, Lu Li had to roll and crawl on the mountain path. He looked extremely embarrassed. Punk, go now or you will die. Most of the red phosphorus hawks had not noticed Lu Li yet. There was still a chance for him to escape. Some escorts could not bear it anymore and shouted, advising Lu Li not to court death. No, I will not go. Lu Li rolled on the ground and jumped up. He dodged left and right, rolling and jumping on the ground to avoid the claws of the hawk. His eyes were filled with determination. He ran with difficulty and kept getting closer. Kill! All the escorts, including Lady E, were somehow touched. They could not tell that this punk was so loyal to his friends. He was willing to risk his life to help them. However, the next moment, Luli shouted something that made everyone roll their eyes. Luli shouted, "Lady E, you haven't paid me for carrying the coffins. How can I go?" Chapter 13. Give me a saber, the heavier, the better. Luli's shout woke everyone up. Patriarch Hong thought about it and said, "Lu Chong, give him your saber." The red phosphorus hawks had strong defense and could fly. To deal with such ferocious birds, clever Xian skills were of little use. Unless there was a high-level Xian artifact, it would be better to rely on brute force. Luli could even smash the red phosphorus hawks away with a wooden stick. It was not hard to imagine how horrifying his strength was. Apart from Patriarch Hong and Lady E, no one else was as strong as Luli. Swish! The escort whose left arm was wounded hurriedly threw his saber at Luli. He himself hid under the golden ancient coffin to avoid being attacked by the red phosphorus hawk. Okay. Grabbing the saber flying towards him, Luli's temperament changed. It was as if he had taken away Di Gu's saber and was fighting against Di Hu. He looked up to the sky and shouted, "Red-haired bastard, come on!" Chirp, chirp, a red phosphorus hawk screamed and dived down. Its sharp claws were glowing red, like the claws of the god of death. It was going to tear Luli apart alive. Swish! Luli slightly bent his legs, as if he was standing on a boulder under a waterfall. He swung his saber and cut 4 or 5 times as fast as lightning. Chirp! The red phosphorus hawk cried out in pain. In everyone's shocked eyes, one of the claws of the red phosphorus hawk was cut off. The red phosphorus hawk with a broken claw spread its wings and flew away while crying in pain. Even Lady E was confused. Was that a red phosphorus hawk that flew away? How could its claw be cut off by one move? The defense of the red phosphorus hawks was horrifying. Many escorts attacked for many times, but they could only wound the claws. Even Patriarch Hong found it hard to cut off the claws. Such a fast saber. Patriarch Hong's eyes lit up. He was very excited. Seeing that everyone was stunned, he shouted, "Attack now. With this guy here, we have a chance to get out of danger tonight. Kill." Even though the escorts were still shocked, they all started to attack. On the other side, Luli approached quickly while attacking. He made another move towards a red phosphorus hawk that was diving down. This time, he cut at the wing of the red phosphorus hawk. Chirp, accompanied by a sad cry, half of the red phosphorus eagle's wing was chopped off. It could not maintain its balance, and was smashed into the hill beside it. Such a fast saber. This time, Lady E understood. What Luli was using was not some profound Xian skill. There was no fluctuation of Xian energy in his hands, so he could not use any Xian skill. His saber technique was also extremely simple, but his saber technique had a very terrifying quality. Quick! It was as fast as a rainbow. Within a second, he had slashed 5 or 6 times, and all of them had landed on the same spot. With his terrifying strength, he was able to chop 5 to 6 times in an instant, all at the same spot. It was easy to understand why the eagle's claws and wings were chopped off. This was the same principle as chopping down a tree. Every chop would leave a small gap. If one continuously chopped down on this gap, no matter how big the tree was, it would still be chopped down. Swish, swish, swish. On the other side, Patriarch Hong learned from Luli. He no longer used fancy Xian skills. Instead, he chose the simplest way of chopping. In the time for one breath, he hacked several times. As expected, he easily chopped off one of the eagle's claws and scared off another red phosphorus eagle. "Miss, change your weapon." Patriarch Hong's face was glowing. He shouted to Lu Yi and continued to look for red phosphorus eagles to fight. Lady Yi came to her senses and exchanged weapons with another person. Her whip was a Xian artifact of the 7th rank of the human grade, but it was not of much use against the red phosphorus eagles. After Lady Yi changed her weapon, she followed suit. She was at the peak of the Xian Wu realm, and her strength was no weaker than Lu Li's. However, she was not good at using saber techniques, so she could not chop off the eagle's claws. She could only wound the red phosphorus eagles, which was not bad. Punk, hurry up. Otherwise, you will attract more red phosphorus eagles. Patriarch Hong became braver as the fight went on. He looked at Lu Li and shouted. There might be a large-scale beast upheaval happening at the north. The longer they fought here, the more Xian beasts would be attracted. Once they were surrounded by a large number of Xian beasts, everyone would die. Okay. Lu Li understood this. He waved his saber wildly. Every time he hacked, a red phosphorus eagle's claw or wing would be chopped off. Clank, after scaring away or severely injuring more than a dozen red phosphorus eagles, the saber in Lu Li's hand suddenly broke in the middle. The defense of the red phosphorus eagles was too strong. This saber was only a Xian artifact of the 1st rank of the human grade. Lu Li kept hacking at the same spot. Naturally, it could not stand it. Without his saber, Lu Li was like a tiger without teeth. He dodged the attacks of the red phosphorus eagles in a panic. Patriarch Hong hurriedly shouted, "Give him the saber!" "No need." Lu Li shouted. He rolled on the ground, jumped up like a leopard cat and rushed to the vicinity of the others. Then, in front of everyone's shocked eyes, he grabbed the huge cold iron chain with both of his hands, rushed forward for a few steps and swung the golden ancient coffin up. The golden ancient coffin weighed more than 1,500 pounds, but it was swung up by Lu Li. It was like a huge chain hammer dancing in the air. Boom! The golden ancient coffin smashed onto a red phosphorus eagle. A weight of more than 1,500 pounds was not a joke. The red phosphorus eagle was smashed away. One of its wings was covered in blood. It struggled for a bit but could not fly up. Boom! 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 Lu Li had transformed into an extraterrestrial demon. He grabbed the huge cold iron chain and swung the golden ancient coffin with a whistling sound, smashing away the red phosphorus eagles one by one. In just one move, he had smashed away 4 or 5 red phosphorus eagles, and the red phosphorus eagles that were smashed away were obviously badly injured. "Punk, how dare you!" Lady Yi flew into a rage. She shouted angrily, "Put it down. It is my great-grandpa in there." Patriarch Hong and the escorts looked at each other. Lu Li was too bold. Inside the golden ancient coffin were the remains of the ancestors of the Lu family. If he swung the ancient coffin like this, the remains inside might have been shattered. That was blasphemy against the ancestors and disturbing the souls of the deceased. It would be strange if Lady Yi was not furious. Lu Li did not put it down. He continued to swing the ancient coffin to attack the red phosphorus eagles. At the same time, he turned around and said, "Which is more important, your life or the coffin? If we don't beat back the red phosphorus eagles, we will all die. This coffin of the ancestor will not be damaged. If your ancestors' spirits are still here, they will forgive us for our rudeness." Using the saber to attack the red phosphorus eagles was too slow. If he did not beat back the red phosphorus eagles, how would Lady Yi have the time to give him the body refinement pellet? Lu Li only wanted the body refinement pellet. He did not want to die. If he attracted a large number of Xian beasts, he would die here. Lady Yi was angry and furious, but in the end, she did not continue to stop Lu Li's rudeness. The coffin of the ancestor was protected by the inhibition formation, so it would be fine. Otherwise, if the coffin was opened and the remains inside flew out, Lady Yi would go crazy. Patriarch Hong comforted her. "Lady Yi, the situation is urgent. You have no other choice. Your ancestors will not blame you. Saving our lives is more important. We must beat back the red phosphorus eagles and retreat as soon as possible. Lady E could only vent her anger on the red phosphorus eagles. She looked towards Luli from time to time, for fear that the inhibition formation would be destroyed and the remains inside would fly out. Hoy! Luli kept shouting. He grabbed the huge cold iron chain and swung the golden ancient coffin that was glowing with a dim light. Every time he attacked, 1 or 2 red phosphorus eagles would be smashed away. Freak, the 2 injured escorts were hiding under the boulder. They looked at Luli and were secretly speechless. Half a month ago, they looked down on Luli from the bottom of their hearts. Only now did they realize that if they were to fight with this guy, the 2 of them would be easily smashed to death. The cold night was bleak, and the cold wind was whistling. Chapter 14. With the golden ancient coffin as a weapon, Luli could hurt the red phosphorus hawks much faster. Every time, he could smash away 1 or 2 red phosphorus hawks. Within the time it took for an incense stick to burn, the surrounding mountains and fields were filled with injured red phosphorus hawks. Many of the vicious birds had their wings broken, unable to fly. They could only flap their wings on the ground, rolling and crying out. Many of the surrounding stone peaks were knocked down, and the ground was full of scratch marks. It was a complete mess. After the time it took for 3 sticks of incense to burn, there were less than 10 red phosphorus hawks left in the sky. The danger was almost over. Luli was so tired that he was gasping for air. He put down the coffin and stopped attacking. Those red phosphorus hawks were scared out of their wits and no longer dared to approach him. The golden ancient coffin crashed heavily onto the ground, causing the ground to tremble. The corner of young Mistress Yi's mouth twitched. The wreckage inside had probably been completely shattered, right? That was her ancestor, huh? After Elder Hong sent a red phosphorus hawk flying, he glanced around and decisively ordered, "Prepare to retreat. We can't stay here any longer. The cries of so many red phosphorus hawks will attract more Xian beasts." What about the ancestral coffin? Young Lady E was anxious. If they retreated, there would be no one guarding the ancestral coffin. They couldn't possibly leave the ancestral coffin here, right? Don't worry about it. The ancestral coffin is protected by restrictions. Xian beasts can't destroy it. Old Hong pondered for a moment and waved his hand. Luli had an idea. He quickly pulled the coffin of ancestor to a small hill. Then he jumped up and kicked at the coffin. The hill cracked and the soil slid down, burying the coffin. Luli jumped down and said, "Now, no Xian beasts will notice your coffin. Alright, retreat." Lady E took a few glances and waved her saber to repel a red phosphorus hawk. She signaled the escorts to retreat. However, Luli became anxious and shouted in a deep voice, "Wait, Lady E, you haven't given me the body refinement pellet yet." Lady E rolled her eyes, stared at Luli, and nodded to Patriarch Hong. The latter took out a small bag and threw it over. He also threw a guard saber over and said, "Brat, there are 10 body-tempering dawn in here. I'll give them all to you. Take this saber to protect yourself." "Thank you, my lord." Luli took the saber and opened the bag to have a look. His eyes were filled with joy. He cupped his hands in greeting and turned to leave. He was very worried about his sister's safety because of the beast tide. "Wait," Lady E called out. Luli turned around in confusion. After a pause, Lady E said, "Today you have helped us. If you want to join the Lu family, you can come to the Wu Ling County to look for me after the beast upheaval is over." Lady E used to look down on Luli because he could not cultivate Xian energy. Today, Luli had demonstrated powerful combat capacity, especially his sword skills that were as fast as lightning. Lady E had a whole new level of respect for him. Furthermore, he had saved her life, so she extended an olive branch to him. "Alright, thank you, Mississippi." Luli was delighted again. The Lu family was the overlord of the Wu Ling County, a third-rank family. Once he joined the Lu family, even Di-Ba would have to bow his head to him. He could bring his sister to live in the Wu-Ling County, and he would not have to worry about Di-Ba making trouble for him. Elder Hong and the guards forced the last few red phosphorus hawks to retreat, and immediately retreated with Miss E. They didn't go to the Black Hawk Ridge. There was a shield there that ordinary mystical beasts couldn't break through. If a powerful mystical beast appeared, they would just be sending themselves to their deaths. Luli ran wildly into the night. He didn't dare to go to the Black Hawk Ridge either, so he had to run towards the south. There were no mountain paths in the south, so he could only climb over the mountains and move forward with great difficulty. Roar! From time to time came the loud roars of the mystical beasts from the north. Fortunately, the distance was quite far, so the threat couldn't reach here. Luli didn't care about it anymore and focused on his journey. He carried his saber and ran like a wild beast in the wilderness. After more than 3 miles, he found the mountain path back to the tribe. After the time it took for several incense sticks to burn, he passed by a tribe. Although the tribe was a bit noisy, there were no Xian beasts attacking. Luli was relieved. This tribe was to the north of the Dilong tribe. It was safe here, so the Dilong tribe must be fine. Luli strode forward. After an hour, he finally arrived at the outside of the tribe. The tribe was brightly lit, and it was chaotic and noisy. Obviously, the roars of the mystical beasts in the north had startled them. Luli saw a familiar figure outside the fence. He immediately shouted, "Sister!" Fu Lu Ling, who was standing in the corner, let out a sigh of relief when she saw Luli coming back safely. Many old women outside cursed Luli in a low voice when they saw him. They looked at Luli with cold eyes. No matter how they looked at Luli and his sister, they didn't like him. "Let's go home." Lu Ling saw that Luli's face turned gloomy. She smiled and didn't mind at all. After entering her own stone house, she asked, "Why are you so late today? Is there a beast tide in the north? I heard the roars of many Xian beasts." "Yes." Luli nodded and explained the situation to her. He was afraid that Lu Ling would blame him, so he didn't mention that he went to rescue Lady E and the others. He only mentioned that he encountered some low-rank Xian beasts which delayed him. However, he told her that Miss E was willing to recommend him to join the Lu family. "You got the body-tempering pill?" Miss Lu also said that she could recommend you to join the Lu family? Lu Ling's pale face became rosy. She nodded and said, "After you finish your meal, go and consume the body refinement pellet. When the beast upheaval is over, we will go to the Wu-Ling County to awaken your bloodline." "All right." Luli walked to the table and started wolfing down his food. He thought about it and asked, "Sis, will the beast upheaval spread over here? Should I refine the body-tempering pill tomorrow?" "I'm fine." Lu Ling said disapprovingly, "There are so many super-powerful warriors in the ice abyss. The beast upheaval might have been triggered by them. How could they just stand by and watch people being plunged into misery and suffering? Don't worry, they will definitely suppress the beast tide." That's true. Luli remembered the ancient chariot he saw at the Black Hawk Ridge and the several powerful warriors in golden armors. He was a bit relieved. Since the powerful warriors of the superfamilies had taken action, they would definitely get involved. At the very least, they would suppress the powerful Xian beasts. After the meal, Luli quietly went out to observe the tribe. After making sure that there were no Xian beasts nearby, he went back to his room to consume the body refinement pellet. He consumed 5 body refinement pellets at once. He dared not to consume more. 5 pellets was enough for him to increase his strength to more than 11,000 pounds. While he was consuming the pellets, he heard another loud roar coming from the north. From time to time, there would be noises in the tribe. It seemed that the people in the tribe would not be able to sleep peacefully tonight. "Sis, I will sleep for a while. Wake me up if anything happens." After consuming the body refinement pellet, Luli was too sleepy to keep his eyes open. He walked out of his room and called out to Lu Ling. After Lu Ling responded, Lu Li climbed into bed and soon fell asleep. After a while, Lu Ling limped in with a book in her hand. She sat by Lu Li's bed. It was too noisy outside. She did not want to sleep. She planned to spend the night reading. For the first half of the night, there were constant roars of beasts in the north. The tribe was never quiet and children were crying. Lu Li was really tired. He had pulled 6 coffins and fought with a flock of red phosphorus hawks while wielding the golden ancient coffin. He had consumed 5 body refinement pellet. Even thunder could not wake him up. The animal tooth pendant on his neck was glowing, blinking. Lu Ling was not worried. This thing was left to Lu Li by her father. Lu Li had been in good health recently. The animal tooth pendant glowing was clearly beneficial to Lu Li. Di Hua and Di Han are back with their men. Okay, let's go back to sleep. Hua, Han, and Tian are here. Nothing will happen. Okay, we can rest assured now that Di Hua is back. In the middle of the night, there was a noise outside. Lu Ling stopped flipping through the book and frowned. Because of the beast upheaval, Di Hua had brought his men back? Would he fly into a rage when he saw Di Hu and Di Gu's injuries and go to Lu Li's door to make trouble? Di Hua was the most powerful warrior of the young generation in the tribe. He was at the peak of the Xian Wu realm. Lu Li had not cultivated his Xian energy yet. He was no match for Di Hua. Chapter 15. The beast roars died down in the middle of the night. Lu Li slept peacefully. Lu Ling could not stand the sleepiness and went back to rest after midnight. At the break of dawn, Lu Li woke up on time and stretched himself comfortably. After he woke up, he immediately went outside. After making sure that the tribe was peaceful and that his sister was still asleep, he jumped to the back mountain from the backyard. Lu Li consumed 5 body refinement pellets last night. He felt his strength had increased a bit. If nothing went wrong, he should have more than 11,000 pounds of strength. Hoi! Lu Li found the boulder at the back mountain. He lifted it up easily and ran to the pond in the valley. Bang! He threw the boulder down and grinned. He felt his strength had increased by about 400 pounds. Now, he definitely had more than 11,000 pounds of strength. He rushed into the pond and stood on the boulder. He took out his long saber and chopped at the waterfall. This time, he easily chopped for more than 300 times before he was washed down by the waterfall due to exhaustion. I'm done. Time to go back. Lu Li did not know if the beast upheaval had subsided. He dared not to stay outside any longer. He put on his clothes and walked out of the valley with his long saber. He looked at the outside of the valley with some nostalgia. After 7 years of body refinement, he was about to leave the Di Long tribe. Maybe he would never come back in this lifetime. It was inevitable that he would be reluctant to leave. Let's go. After a few looks, he ran towards the tribe in strides. This time, he did not want to take a detour to the front gate of the tribe. He directly jumped into his stone house from the back mountain. He was about to leave, so he had no scruples. It was just dawn, but Lu Ling had already woken up and was making breakfast. She was not surprised to see Lu Li come back early. She said with a smile, "Go sit for a while. It will be ready soon." Lu Li washed his face and rinsed his mouth and rinsed his mouth. Lu Ling still ate very little. She only had a bowl of porridge. After she finished, she said, "After you finish eating, you go out to the tribes and find out more about the situation. If there is no danger on the way to the Wu Ling County, we will leave in the afternoon." So soon? Lu Li frowned. The beast upheaval happened yesterday. Even if it had been suppressed, there might be lone Xian beasts in the wild mountains. Lu Li would be fine, but Lu Ling did not have any fighting ability. Once she was attacked by wild Xian beasts, the consequences would be unimaginable. Lu Li explained, Di Hua came back yesterday, along with Di Han and Di Tian. All the young warriors of the tribe have come back. Lu Li's face darkened. Di Hua was the most powerful warrior of the young generation in the tribe of the tribe. He was only 22 years old. Di Han and Di Tian were both at the peak of the Xian martial arts realm. Both of them were around 27 years old. Their aptitudes were considered pretty good in ordinary tribes. The three of them were the most powerful warriors of the younger generation in the tribe. Lu Li thought that even if they heard that Di Hu was injured by him, they would not come back so soon. It seemed that Di Ba was afraid that the tribe would be attacked by the mystical beasts during the beast tide yesterday, so he asked them to come back early. Lu Li thought about it and nodded. As long as the road to the Wu Ling County was safe, he wanted to leave as soon as possible. He of Lu of Li. He was, and from inside he went out. Of the mountain. Lu. Just as he took a detour to leave the tribe, Lu Li saw a group of young people in the wild. He took a few glances and found many familiar faces. Di Han. They were the youths of the tribe. From the looks of it, they were patrolling outside the tribe, afraid that a lone Xian beast would attack the tribe. No wonder the tribe was so quiet. It turned out that Di Hua, Di Han and the others were patrolling outside. Go. Lu Li could put his mind at ease. For the time being, nobody would make trouble for Lu Ling and him. He quickly retreated and took a detour to a small tribe nearby. Lu Li had been on the move for 4 to 6 hours. He had made a big circle around the area and asked some people of other tribes to get some information. There was indeed a beast tide last night. A large tribe in the north was attacked and many people died. However, the beast tide had been temporarily suppressed. Many experts from the superclans were dispatched, and many powerful Xian beasts were killed. The Lu family, the Zhao family, and the Lu family still had many warriors stationed outside the ice abyss. They were blocking the Xian beasts outside the ice abyss, preventing the beast tide from spreading further. Let's go back. We will go to the Wu Ling County this afternoon. Lu Li was relieved. As long as they were careful, the road to the Wu Ling County would be safe. Worried about Lu Ling, he hurried back to the tribe without stopping. Di Hua and the others had returned. Lu Li dared not to enter the tribe through the front gate. He also jumped down from the back of the mountain and entered his own stone house. As soon as he entered his stone house, Lu Li's expression turned cold. There was a young man standing in the opposite stone house, looking at him with a sinister smile. Someone is tailing us. Lu Li saw that the young man of the tribe jumped down from the stone house and disappeared. His heart became heavy. Needless to say, this man must have been sent by Di Hua and the others, waiting for him to show up. Lu Li hurried into the stone house. Lu Ling was packing up the room. She did not bring many things, just some soft clothes, some dried meat and water. The books on the bookcase were also carefully packed into a bundle. Sis, we have to leave now. Lu Li told her about the situation of someone tailing them outside. Lu Ling didn't show much emotion after hearing this. She continued to pack up her things. After everything was packed up, she sat down leisurely and said, "We can't leave now. Now that they have sent someone to tail us, we will be hunted down as soon as we leave. Let's wait for them here." Wait for them? Lu Li grabbed the saber given to him by Patriarch Hong and said in a cold voice, "Sis, how about we walk out of the tribe above board? With 6th granduncle here, Di Hua and the others won't dare to go too far." 6th granduncle was the patriarch of Lu Li's maternal grandfather's branch. He enjoyed high prestige in the tribe. Previously, with his presence, Di Ba's branch dared not to act recklessly. Otherwise, they would have been driven out of the tribe. It's useless. Lu Ling shook her head and said, "You have been carrying coffins recently, so you don't know. 6th granduncle has fallen ill. He hasn't gotten out of bed for days. If Dihua and the others want to make a move, I don't think they will let sixth granduncle know. A glint of coldness flashed in Lu Li's eyes. Then he said while clenching his teeth, "Sis, don't worry. I will not let anyone hurt you. If anyone wants to hurt you, they will have to do it over my dead body." "Silly brother." Lu Ling smiled gently and said, "I am not as weak as you think. Just listen to my arrangements later. If Dihua and the others dare to make trouble for you, I will make them regret being born." Okay, looking at Lu Ling's calm expression, Lu Li somehow felt at ease. At this moment, Lu Ling gave him the feeling that she was a strategist. Everything was within her calculations. "Lu Li, get your ass out here." In less than an hour, a shout came from outside the stone house. Lu Li looked at Lu Ling instantly, a strong murderous intent rose from him. Everything was within Lu Ling's expectations. The enemies were fast. They could not run away. "Drink this cup of tea and go out." Lu Ling poured a cup of tea. Lu Li looked at her with confusion. What time was it? Drinking tea? However, he was used to listening to Lu Ling. He picked up the cup and drank it. Halfway through, he spat it out and asked, "Sis, what is this tea? Why is there a strange smell?" "Good tea. Drink it." Lu Ling smiled mysteriously. Lu Li drank it up with his teeth clenched. Then he walked out in strides with his saber. Through the short wall, he saw more than a dozen people coming. However, he did not see Dihua or Di Tian. He only saw Di Han with more than a dozen young people. Lu Li asked in a deep voice through the wall, "What do you want from me? What do you think?" Chapter 16. Broken Legs. Judging by the behavior and expressions of Di Han and the others, it seemed that they wanted to disable Lu Li today. They would not stop until they reached their goal. Lu Li didn't want to make a big fuss. He was about to awaken his bloodline and could join the Lu family. It would not be worth it to fight with Di Han and the others now. Lu Li's strength had increased to more than 11,000 pounds. However, he was still not sure if he could defeat Di Han, who was at the peak of the Xian Wu realm. Di Han was 27 years old. He had cultivated Xian energy at an early age and knew 2 kinds of Xian skills. Losing was not a big deal. Being beaten up and suffering was nothing. Even broken legs could be recovered in a month or 2. Lu Li was afraid that his sister would be humiliated. He said in a cold voice, "Di Han, I hurt Di Hu and the others. They bullied me and insulted my sister first. I didn't hurt them too much in the end, nor did I break their arms and legs. You don't like me and my sister. How about we leave the tribe now?" "Ha ha ha." Di Han laughed and mocked. "You want to run away after beating people up? How can there be such a good thing in the world? My aunts are crying every day. How can I explain to them if I don't break your legs? Don't talk nonsense. I will count to 3. If you don't break your legs, we will help you. However, if I accidentally break all the bones in your body and break your sister's other leg, don't blame me." "You?" Right at that moment, the door of the stone house was pushed open. Lu Ling walked out with the help of her walking stick. She coldly looked into the distance through the wall and said in a loud voice, "Dihua, Di Tian, since you want to settle the score, why hide? Come out if you are a man." "Ha ha." From a stone house in the distance, 2 young men walked out. One of them was in a white warrior robe. He was handsome, with a long sword in his hand. He walked with majestic steps, which was quite intimidating. The other one was short and had triangular eyes. His eyes were like those of a poisonous snake. One look at them would make people's heart palpitate. The young man in the white warrior robe was Dihua, the most powerful warrior of the young generation in the tribe. Even though he and Di Hu came from the same mother, their appearances were quite different. Dihua looked at Lu Ling lightly and said, "Lu Ling, don't blame me for this. Your brother broke several bones of Di Hu and the others. Your mother and 2 aunts asked us to do it. We don't have a choice. How about we let Luli break his legs and we can call it a day? There was not a trace of anger on Lu Ling's face. Instead, there was a gentle smile on the corner of her mouth. Her face, which was even more beautiful than Lady Yi's, was breathtakingly beautiful. Many young men outside the yard were mesmerized. After a pause, Lu Ling said softly, "Whoever wants to break my brother's leg, come on in. However, don't blame me for not warning you. If you dare to step into the courtyard, don't blame us for being merciless." From the beginning to the end, Lu Ling looked calm and her tone was light. It was as if she was not warning Di Hua and the others, but inviting them to be her guests. Oh, Di Hua and Di Tian looked at each other and felt an inexplicable chill down their spines. They were the only ones who knew that Lu Ling was not joking. Once they stepped into the courtyard, things might become irreversible. What does this crazy woman want to play? Di Tian muttered and looked at Di Hua. The latter was a little hesitant and did not give the order. Humph! Di Han, on the other hand, did not have so many concerns. He snorted. As far as he was concerned, Luli was just an ant that he could easily suppress. As for Lu Ling, what threat could a crippled woman pose? He unsheathed the saber on his back, held it up high and shouted angrily, "Why are you wasting your time talking to this crazy woman? Do it. Disable the little bastard Luli and throw them out of the tribe." Yes. A young man looked at Di Hua and said, "Brother Hua, the chief has made a great contribution at the periphery of the ice abyss. He has been appointed as the external clan patriarch of the Zhao family. Why are you wasting your time talking to them? Even if you disable them, who in the tribe dares to say anything?" Luli and Lu Ling looked at each other and felt relieved. No wonder they dared to make such a big fuss in the tribe today. It was because Di Ba had become the external clan patriarch of the Zhao family. The Zhao family was also in the Wuling county. It was a second-rank family, second only to the Lu family. As the external clan patriarch of the Zhao family, Di Ba's prestige in the tribe would be greatly enhanced. He could lead the tribe to grow stronger. "Di Pu, go and have some fun with Luli." Di Han looked at a young man in his early 20s. Di Pu was at the middle stage of the Xian Wu realm, which was not bad among the young generation in the tribe. Luli could not cultivate Xian energy, but Di Hu and the other two were badly injured by him? Di Han still could not believe it. Okay. Di Pu was as agile as a monkey. He jumped up and landed on the mud wall of the Lu family. With a spear in his hand, he looked at Luli with a sneer and said, "Little bastard, I will have some fun with you." Luli looked at Lu Ling, who went back to the door with the help of her walking stick. She said in a cold voice, "I said, if you dare to step into the yard, don't blame us for being ruthless. Luli, do it. We are not going to stay in this tribe anyway." With that said, Lu Ling actually went back into her room, ignoring the situation outside. Luli slowly lifted up the saber in his hand. His desire to fight was rising. At this moment, there was no more hesitation in his mind. Judging by the situation today, if he could not defeat or injure these more than a dozen people, they would not be able to leave the tribe. Behind him was his sister, who was so weak that she could not even truss a chicken. Luli had no way out except to fight to the death. Swish! On top of the mud wall, Di Puo looked at Di Han and Di Hua. Seeing that they nodded, Di Puo shouted and leaped up high. The Xian energy in his hands glistened, and the long spear transformed into two spear shadows, stabbing towards Lu Li's chest. Lu Li did not move. Seeing the spear coming at him, he slowly pressed his legs down, as if he was squatting. He squinted his eyes and stared at the spear piercing through the air. He was calculating the distance in his mind. 6 feet, 1 foot, 2.5 feet. Swish! Lu Li suddenly hacked with his long saber. A flash of saber light appeared, piercing through the air like lightning. The speed was so fast that many people could not see it clearly. Bang! A muffled sound came out. Deepu's spear was knocked away. Lu Li's saber had landed on the spearhead of the spear. The horrifying strength made Deepu lose his grip on the spear. His body was also smashed and rolled down. Swish, Lu Li kicked on the ground and rushed forward like a ferocious tiger. With a back sweep of his long leg, he kicked Deepu, who was in midair, away. Boom, boom! Deepu was smashed against the mud wall outside the yard of Lu Li's house. The mud wall was made of mud. How could it withstand such gravity? The mud wall fell down with a loud bang, stirring up a lot of dust. Defeated in one move, there was an uproar outside. Dihua, Dihan and Ditian were slightly stunned. In the distance, some elders and old ladies of the tribe were alarmed, but they did not come over. Instead, some old ladies were clamoring from afar, asking Dihua and the others to teach Lu Li and her sister a lesson and drive them out of the tribe. They do have some skills. No wonder they could hurt Dihu. Dihan twisted his hand with a gloomy expression and waved his long saber. He asked someone to help Deepu up and walk towards the yard step by step. His momentum was clearly much stronger than Deepu's. There was a faint, murderous intent. His hands must have been stained with blood. Dihua, Dihan and Ditian were the best hunters among the young generation of the tribe. They started hunting beasts when they were 8 or 9 years old. Their fighting experience was far better than Dihu and the others. Dihan, who had just crossed the collapsed mud wall and was about to make his move, suddenly looked towards the stone house behind Lu Li. He was shocked. In the distance, Dihua and Ditian were also shocked. They cursed in a low voice at the same time. She really is a crazy woman, sister. Lu Li sensed something was not right. He suddenly looked back and saw thick smoke coming out of the room. There was a faint light of fire. The room was on fire. Squeak, squeak, Lu Ling pushed the door open and walked out. She had a walking stick in one hand and a bundle in the other. She did not look at the house on fire. Instead, she looked at Lu Li and said, "Brother, we are leaving the tribe soon. Since we can no longer live in this house, let's burn it down." Crazy woman, a group of people cursed in a low voice. It was one thing for her to set fire to her own house, but how could she be so calm? How could she be so sure that they could get out of the tribe safely today by cutting off their way out so decisively? Chapter 17. The fire was not big, but the smoke was billowing. The room was built with earth. There were not many wooden products in it, only some bookcases, tables and chairs, wooden beams, wooden doors, and quilts on the bed. The snow had just stopped, and the ice and snow had not melted yet. Even a wooden house could not catch fire, which was why the smoke was so thick. Lu Li's earth house was in the corner of the tribe. There was some distance between the houses nearby, so the fire would not spread. However, this side was on fire. Black smoke billowed into the sky, alarming many people in the tribe. More people gathered here. Seeing that Dihua and Dihan were here, some women and the elderly dared not to come closer. Obviously, most people in the tribe knew what Dihua and the others were doing today. Diba had become the external clan patriarch of the Zhao family. His prestige in the tribe had increased greatly. Nobody would offend Diba's family for such a trivial matter. Of course, nobody wanted to see Lu Li and her sister. The only one who cared about them was their 6th granduncle, who was bedridden at the moment. He could not do anything even if he wanted to. Looking at the people of the tribe in the distance, Lu Li put on a cold smile. Even though they were born and raised in the tribe, they did not feel at home here. At this moment, Lu Li's heart turned cold. "Sis, stand aside. After I injure all these people, I will take you out of the tribe. I will destroy anyone who dares to stand in our way today." The fire behind him was getting bigger and bigger. Half of Lu Li's face was reddened by the light. After Lu Ling walked out of the yard and stood aside, Lu Li slowly walked out. This time, he approached Di-Han step by step. The more than a dozen people outside, including Dihor and Di-Tian, all changed their expressions. At this moment, they felt something was different. Lu Li's momentum was rising, like a beast in a desperate situation, ready to fight back with all his might. Kill. Di-Han felt that he could not let Lu Li go on. Otherwise, if Lu Li's momentum kept rising, Di-Han would be suppressed by Lu Li. With a roar, Di-Han kicked on the ground with one leg, and his body floated up. The long saber did not make any fancy moves. It was just moving straight at Lu Li. Master. As soon as a master made his move, one could tell if he was a master or not. Di-Han did not show any profound Xian skill. It was just a simple stroke, but Lu Li felt that all three directions of his were blocked by the long saber. Apart from retreating or resisting, there was no other way out. Behind him was the smoking house. Lu Li had no way out, so he could only choose to fight. He bent his legs and held the long saber with both hands. In the past, he had always held the saber with one hand, which showed how much pressure Di-Han gave him. Ha! He chose to take the initiative to attack. He raised his long saber high and slashed it down heavily, aiming directly at Di-Han's face. His saber was still as fast as ever. In the blink of an eye, it had already approached Di-Han and was about to hit his head. Hee. Di-Han sneered. Lu Li did not have Xian energy, so he could not cultivate Xian skill. However, Di-Han had a Xian skill of body movement skill and a Xian skill of saber skill. Lu Li's domineering move was laughable in his eyes. He could easily dodge Lu Li's attack and then wound him with his saber. He did the same. He pressed his long saber down and made a beautiful arc. He turned around and aimed at Lu Li's kneecap. If Lu Li was hit by this move, his leg would be crippled. Hist! Some elders in the distance could not bear to see the tragic scene of a broken leg, so they looked away. On the other hand, Lu Ling was still otherworldly. She looked cold, as if it was not Lu Li who was going to have his leg broken, but someone irrelevant. Hoi! At the critical moment, Lu Li did not panic. He didn't even look at the saber that was sliding down. He turned his hands and the momentum of the saber did not decrease. He made a curve and continued to cut at Di-Han's head. A life for a life. This was Lu Li's strategy. He was ready to trade a leg for Di-Han's life. It all depended on whether Di-Han had the guts or not. It was obvious. Di-Han did not have the guts, and he was not so stupid as to trade his life for Lu Li's leg. He had to change his move. He flipped his long saber up to block Lu Li's move. The saber was so fast that there was no way for him to dodge. Lu Li was in midair and could not borrow any strength. As long as he could block this move, he would be left vulnerable. Di-Han had dozens of ways to hurt Lu Li. Clank, clank, sparks flew. The muffled sound of the saber clashing made everyone's blood boil. This move was so powerful that Di-Han's body trembled violently. His legs sank into the muddy road, leaving 2 deep footprints. Oh no! Dihua shouted in a low voice. Di-Tian's expression became solemn. The two of them sensed something was wrong from Di-Han's expression. Swish, 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 Lu Li's long saber bounced off, but he did not stop for even a moment. While he was in midair, he kept cutting down with his saber. Every move was fatal, aiming at Di-Han's head. In the time for one breath, Lu Li had made 4 or 5 moves. Every move carried a force of more than 11,000 pounds. Clank, clank, clank. Muffled sounds of metal clashing came out. Sparks flew everywhere. Di-Han looked miserable. Others might not be able to tell, but only he knew how hard it was for him to block. Lu Li did not have Xian energy, but his strength was not weaker than Di-Han's. Lu Li had at least 11,000 pounds of strength. The most important thing was, Lu Li's saber was too fast. He could make 4 or 5 moves in the time for one breath, and every move carried a force of more than 11,000 pounds. In just a few blinks of an eye, Lu Li had made more than a dozen moves. It was as if he would never be exhausted. The speed of the saber was too fast. One move after another, Di Han had no way to fight back. If he did not block, his head would be smashed. If he did not want to die, the only thing he could do was to block Lu Li's surging attacks. He had already used both of his hands to hold the saber. Otherwise, he would have been smashed away. Even so, blood had started to seep out between his thumb and forefinger. His hands were numb, and his legs were trembling. Qi and blood were tumbling all over his body. If it were not for the fact that he was trying his best to suppress the blood in his throat, he would have spat it out, clank, clank, clank. Lu Li did not show mercy when he had the upper hand. After he landed on the ground, he jumped up again. He swung the long saber with both of his hands and continuously cut down. His own qi and blood were tumbling because of the impact, but he held his breath and continued to cut down. He knew that if he could not defeat Di Han this time, he would be killed by Di Han once he lost his spirit. Clang! After Lu Li made another 7 or 8 moves, Di Han's long saber suddenly broke. Every time, Lu Li cut at the same spot. Even though Di Han's long saber was a human-grade Xian artifact, Lu Li's saber was also a human-grade Xian artifact. Under the continuous heavy cuts, Di Han's long saber could not stand it any longer, like the claws of the red phosphorus hawks. The long saber was cut in half. Di Han's chest was wide open. Looking at Lu Li's saber that was still coming at him, Di Han screamed in terror. If Lu Li did not pull back his saber, Di Han's head would definitely be smashed. On the other side, Di Hua and the others' expressions also changed. Di Hua angrily shouted, "Lu Li, stop!" The saber momentum was so fierce that Lu Li could not pull it back even if he wanted to. The only thing he could do was to move the saber to the side at the last moment and reduce his strength as much as possible. Crack! The long saber cut at Di Han's left shoulder. The saber blade cut into Di Han's body by 3 inches. Di Han's left shoulder and arm were almost completely cut off. Di Han cried out in pain. He stepped back for more than a dozen steps, holding his shoulder that was bleeding profusely. He kept screaming. His eyes were filled with hatred, and the pain was piercing to the bone. From the corner of his eyes, he saw that Lu Ling was not far behind him. Di Han's expression became ferocious. He rushed towards Lu Ling while shouting, "Little bastard, if you dare to hurt me, I will make your sister's other leg lame as well." Lu Ling, who had been standing in the corner with a calm expression, saw Di Han rushing towards her with a ferocious expression. Her face was no longer as calm as still water. Instead, there was a trace of excitement on her face. Chapter 18. Di Han, watch out! Di Hua and Di Tian shouted at the same time. Neither of them knew why Lu Ling was so calm, nor did they know what she was relying on. However, when they saw the blush on Lu Ling's face, they somehow remembered that dusk 5 years ago when Lu Ling also looked like this. Both of them had a bad feeling about this. "Sister!" Lu Li shouted and rushed towards Lu Ling. However, he was still some distance away from Lu Ling, while Di Han was only 3 feet away from Lu Ling. As Di Han got closer, Lu Ling's face became redder and redder, like a coquettish fox. Di Han's heart was beating fast. Di Han hesitated because of Di Hua and Di Tian's shouts. However, Lu Ling was right in front of him, and Lu Li was fast approaching. If he could not injure Lu Ling, he might be killed by a furious Lu Li. "Crazy woman, who are you trying to scare?" Di Han roared and continued to rush forward. Before he could finish his sentence, his pupils suddenly shrank and his body retreated in fear. He saw Lu Ling raise one of her hands and a black dot shot out from her sleeve. The black dot was so fast that it was enlarging in his eyes. Also, there was a dim glow on the black dot. Needless to say, it was something fatal. Bang! No matter how fast he retreated, he was not as fast as the black dot. He wanted to block it with his saber, but he found it was too late. The black dot enlarged in his pupils and disappeared between his eyebrows in an instant. Boom! Di-Han stopped retreating. He trembled on the spot and fell to the ground. There was a black arrow in between Di-Han's eyebrows. Half of the arrow went into his bone, and the dim glow was shining on it. Di-Han died instantly. Apart from the faint gasps, there was dead silence in the wilderness. Everyone looked at Di-Han, who was no longer breathing. They looked at the pair of eyes that were wide open and filled with fear. They looked at the black blood that was overflowing from the crossbow arrow. A kind of fear surged from the deepest part of their souls. Lu Li was the same. He had killed many beasts and some Xian beasts, but he had never killed a human, not to mention in the tribe. Lu Ling, a weak girl who had never killed a chicken, dared to kill someone in public today? Brother Han! A young man came to his senses and roared as he ran over. He held Di-Han in his arms and was about to retreat into the distance. He wanted to rescue Di-Han. Don't waste your energy. Di-Han is already dead. The arrow is highly poisonous, the poison of the Inyang grass. Haven't you heard of the saying that the Inyang grass in the middle is separated from the Yin and Yang? A soft and emotionless voice was heard. Lu Ling had spoken. Her face was still very rosy and as beautiful as a flower. She was so beautiful that no one dared to look at her directly. At this moment, many people did not dare to look at her directly. To be able to kill so decisively and still be so calm afterward, was she still human? This woman is crazy. Ah, you crazy woman, how dare you kill my brother Han? I will tear you apart. The young man holding Di-Han in his arms went crazy. He rushed toward Lu Ling like a wild beast. Finally, Lu Li came to his senses and approached Lu Ling quickly. Lu Ling slowly raised her hand, revealing a small black mechanical crossbow. She looked at the young man coldly and said, "This is the death-seeking crossbow. It took me 3 years to make. The speed of the crossbow bolts is as fast as a full-power attack of a warrior of the Spirit Sea realm. The bolts are coated with poison. Anyone who dares to come within 2 meters of me will die for sure. If you don't believe me, you can have a try." The young man stopped and dared not to take another step forward. Di-Han was at the peak of the Xian Wu realm, but he was only at the initial stage of the Xian Wu realm. If he rushed over, he would only be courting death. 3 years. Inyang grass. Lu Li remembered something. 3 years ago, Lu Ling did make some small things. She cut wood for a month when she was bored, but when he asked her, she said it was just for fun. 1 year ago, she even asked him to take her to pick some herbs. It turned out that it was the poisonous Inyang grass. Even though I cannot cultivate Xian energy, I still have the ability to protect myself. Whoever dares to mess with me, I will make them regret being born. Lu Li remembered that when he injured Di-Hu and the other two and went back to the tribe to visit Lu Ling, she said this. Now it seemed that she did have the ability to protect herself. Warriors who were not at the Spirit Sea realm would die if they approached her. However, at this moment, Lu Li felt that Lu Ling was so strange. She was not like that kind and weak sister at all. Even he dared not to kill, let alone stay so calm after killing. Honor. Right at that moment, a sorrowful cry came from afar. An old man walked over in strides with several people. These people were the patriarchs who stayed behind to guard the tribe. They were old, and their combat abilities were not as good as the younger ones. That was why they did not go to the ice abyss with Di-Ba to guard. Di-Han had died a tragic death. Naturally, these people could not sit back and do nothing. Di-Han was the grandson of one of the patriarchs. The several old men walked over in strides. One of them, a silver-haired one-armed old man, was furious. He pointed at Lu Ling with one hand and said, "What a vicious little girl. We are all from the tribe, but how dare you to be so cruel and heartless? Heaven and earth cannot tolerate it. Heaven and earth cannot tolerate it." That's right. Bastards are bastards. The tribe has raised them for more than a decade in vain. They really are two ungrateful wretches. We should have fed them to the beasts when they were little. Kill them and avenge Di-Han. The group of old men kept on cursing. Some old women wanted to rush over but were stopped by other old men. A big fight could break out here at any time. It would be even more chaotic if a bunch of old women came. Lu Li looked forward with a solemn expression. Even though the realm of these old men was not high, only at the middle stage or the later stage of the Xianwu realm, they had all climbed out of a pile of corpses. The other three had high prestige in the tribe. Lu Li was afraid to fight with them. Lu Ling ignored the group of cursing elders. She looked at Lu Li and said, "Today is the first lesson for you before you step into the door of Wu Dao. You must be cruel and merciless to your enemies and show no mercy. Look at this group of people." Lu Ling pointed at the group of people in front of them with her crossbow and said, "Look at them. When did they ever treat us as their own people? And when did they ever treat us as human beings? If it were not for sixth granduncle, do you think we would still be alive? To your brothers you can do anything at all cost. To your loved ones you can give up everything. To your enemies, you must be cold-blooded and merciless. Once you make a move, you must kill them all. The path of Wu Dao is the path of killing. If you want to be a powerful warrior, to be a city lord, a region lord, or even a human sovereign, you must step on countless dead bodies to get to that position. You will have to step on countless corpses to rise to the top. It has always been like this, do you understand? A man should kill and kill without mercy. The everlasting cause is all in killing. Once upon a time, there were heroic men who kept their promises with the spirit of brotherhood. Killing with a glare is lighter than a feather. There were heroes and tyrants who killed in a mess. With that said, Lu Ling pointed at Dihua, Di Tian and the several old men with her crossbow and said, "These people in front of you are all your enemies. They should all be killed. A man should kill." Lu Li's eyes glowed with a red light. He lifted up his saber. However, he was not so determined. After all, he was going to kill people, living people, not beasts or Xian beasts. Crazy woman, Dihua didn't dare to look into Lu Ling's eyes. He turned his head away and cursed, but he didn't dare to make a move right away. "Ha ha, crazy woman?" A sad but beautiful smile appeared on Lu Ling's face. She turned to Lu Li, whose eyes were flickering, and said, "Brother, do you know why they always call me crazy? Do you know why I have a lame leg? Do you know why I spent 3 years to make this death-seeking crossbow? It was all Dihua and Di Tian's doing. Even if I am crazy, they are the ones who made me crazy." Lu Li was stunned. Lu Ling broke her leg 5 years ago. He was only 10 years old at that time. Lu Ling went to the mountain to collect herbs by herself for 5 or 6 days. Lu Li was so worried that he went crazy. He searched all over the mountain for her. After several days, Lu Ling crawled back with her broken leg. However, Lu Ling didn't say much. She only said that she broke her leg while collecting herbs. She didn't expect that it had something to do with Dihua and Di Tian. Ha ha! Lu Ling looked at Dihua and Di Tian, who lowered their heads and didn't dare to look at her directly. She said in a low voice, 5 years ago, I went to the mountain to collect herbs. These 2 bastards wanted to rape me. If I didn't jump off the cliff, my chastity would have been ruined by them. Lu Li, do you know how perverted these 2 are? I jumped off the cliff and broke my leg, but they still wouldn't let me go. If I didn't cut off 5 pieces of flesh from my thigh with a dagger and eat them piece by piece to scare them away, I don't think I would have made it back. Dihua suddenly bent over and vomited. Many young people's expressions changed. They had a strong urge to throw up. Eating her own thigh? This woman was really crazy. Di Tian was also disgusted. He and Dihua could never forget that dusk 5 years ago. Lu Ling cut the flesh with a smile. She chewed and swallowed piece by piece. Her lips that were dripping blood were filled with an intoxicating smile. Chapter 19. Dihua Di Tian. Lu Li's eyes became bloodshot. Lu Ling never told him about this. Nobody in the tribe liked him, not to mention telling him about this. Maybe not even the average people knew about this. Look at these sanctimonious old dogs. Lu Ling pointed to the one-armed old man and the others and said again, I came back to heal my wounds, but my leg is crippled. I went to Deba and these people to ask for justice. Brother, do you know what they said? They said that young people are not sensible, so they can be forgiven. They gave me 10 golden leaves to heal my wounds, and they didn't even apologize. Lu Li's eyes were about to burst into flames. He was almost raped. A beautiful girl became a cripple, and 10 golden leaves was enough to appease her? The one-armed old man and the others looked embarrassed. They were disgraced to have this matter spoken out in front of so many people. The one-armed old man thought about it and said, Lu Ling, it is true that Dihua and Di Tian were wrong back then, but you shouldn't have killed people today. Shut up. Lu Ling interrupted the old man and shouted, Old dog, where were you when Di Han wanted to break my brother's leg and kill me? If we didn't have some means, we would be the ones lying on the ground now. If we were dead, would you say that they were young and immature? The one-armed old man said nothing. He was about to say something when Lu Ling continued, Old dog, don't pretend. You had a part in my grandpa's death, didn't you? Was your hand cut off by my grandpa? You all should have a part in it, right? And Deba, he is the main culprit. What? Everyone was in an uproar. Many people were gathered around the stone house. All of them were moved by the shocking news. Lu Ling's grandpa was the former chief. He brought a group of powerful warriors to the periphery of the ice abyss, but they all died tragically. Now Lu Ling said that it was Deba and the one-armed old man who did it? Nonsense. The one-armed old man shouted in rage. It has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with us. Your grandpa deserved it. Ha ha. Lu Ling laughed out loud. Her body trembled. She looked at Lu Li and said, See? He is guilty. Lu Li, when you have the ability, you must find out who killed my grandpa and the others. Don't let anyone go. Lu Li nodded heavily. He stared at Dihua and Di Tian. His killing intent was condensing and his momentum was rising. He was like a sword that was about to be unsheathed, ready to kill all his enemies. That's right, enemies. At this moment, Lu Li had regarded everyone in front of him as his enemies. Dihua and Di Tian were people he must kill. Don't let a single one go? The one-armed old man snorted coldly. He looked at Dihua and the rest and sneered. Do you think you can walk out of the tribe alive today? Not only did he kill Di Han in broad daylight, but he was also so insane. The Di-Long tribe wouldn't have a peaceful day if you and your brother escaped. Dihua Di Tian, attack. Kill these 2 siblings. Just you guys. She tied the bundle on the ground to her back. Leaning on her walking stick, she said to Lu Li, Brother, take your saber and take me to kill our way out of the tribe. Kill anyone who dares to stop us. All right, we'll kill anyone who dares to stop us. Lu Li roared. He stood in front of Lu Ling and walked forward step by step. Dihua, Di Tian, and the one-armed old man were powerful, but at this moment, Lu Li had no fear at all. Behind him was his dearest and most beloved sister. He had no way out. The only thing he could do was to fight his way out with his saber. The blade was sharp to the bone. He had to fight. His back was against the river. If he could not win, he would die. Kill. Dihua and Di Tian looked at each other. The appearance of the one-armed old man had boosted their confidence. What was there to be afraid of with so many elders watching? If they could not kill Lu Ling, the 2 would continue to be haunted by nightmares. If they could not kill Lu Li, he would become a powerful enemy in the future, bringing endless troubles. Kill! Several young men moved, but they didn't dare to get too close. Lu Ling had said that the shooting range of her death-seeking crossbow was 6 feet, and its speed was comparable to a full-force strike of a warrior of the Spirit Sea realm. Even Di Han could not dodge it, let alone them. Di Lu, get the shields! Di Hua shouted. A young man in the distance immediately ran away. In just a blink of an eye, he came back with 5 bronze shields on his back. He threw them to Di Hua, Di Tian, and the other 2 young men at the middle stage of the Xian Wu realm. With the shields in their hands, Di Hua and the others were filled with confidence. They surrounded Lu Li and Lu Ling without any fear. Lu Li's expression did not change. He walked forward step by step with his saber in his hand. He ignored the others and only stared at Di Hua. Lu Li, don't worry about me. Just do it. I promise you that I will bring you to flatten the Di Long tribe today. Lu Ling shouted. She stopped in the distance. Lu Li shouted in a deep voice and dashed forward. Both of his legs stomped heavily on the ground, causing the blue stone slabs on the ground to crack. His body leaped more than a meter into the air, and with great momentum, he brandished his saber with both hands and fiercely chopped down on Di Hua's shield. Go to hell! Di Tian, who was on the side, made his move. His long saber transformed into shadows of the saber and twisted towards Lu Li like a poisonous dragon. However, as soon as he moved, he suddenly felt something was wrong. His speed had slowed down a bit. Bang! Lu Li's saber smashed on the shield with tremendous force. A muffled sound of gold and iron colliding came out, and sparks flew everywhere. In the astonished eyes of countless people, Di Hua was smashed away together with his shield. How, the one-armed old man and the other elders were shocked. Di Hua was at the peak of the Xian Wu realm, and was about to make it to the Spirit Sea realm. How could he be smashed away by Lu Li, who had no Xian energy? Swish! After Lu Li smashed away Di Hua, he turned around with one leg, swung his saber backward and smashed at Di Tian's head. Di Tian was shocked. He found that his attacking speed had been greatly reduced. At this moment of life and death, he could only hold up his shield to defend. Bang! Just like Di Hua, Di Tian, who was at the peak of the Xian Wu realm, was also smashed away. He was smashed away along with his shield for more than 30 feet. He smashed into a dirt wall in the distance. The dirt wall collapsed and buried Di Tian alive. What is going on? Many young men were about to attack Lu Li, but they were scared. Did Lu Li hide his fighting capacity? Or did Di Hua and Di Tian become weaker? Xian energy at the peak of the Xian Wu realm could exert more than 11,000 pounds of strength. Even if Lu Li did, how could there be such a huge gap? My Xian energy is messed up. I think I am poisoned? Di Hua crawled up. His handsome face was covered with blood. He looked at the one-armed old man in surprise, hoping to get an answer. The one-armed old man frowned. He secretly mobilized his Xian energy and found that his Xian energy was also messed up. He rolled his eyes and suddenly remembered something. He looked towards Lu Li's stone house and shouted in a deep voice, "No, this smoke is poisonous. It might have burned the purple corrosion grass." The purple corrosion grass. Everyone had heard of it. It was the main ingredient of the Xian erosion pellet. The Xian erosion pellet was a poisonous pellet that could mess up Xian energy. Ha ha, you found out too late. Lu Ling smiled gently. Her pretty eyes glowed with a cunning light. She was not crazy. She burned her own house at will. She might not cut off her own path of retreat, but at least she had destroyed their childhood memories. Of course, she did it for a reason. She had been preparing for today. She wanted to wait for Lu Li to awaken his bloodline before she made her move. She did not expect that Di Hua and Di Tian would come back in advance. She had to act earlier. The smoke of the purple corrosion grass could mess up the Xian energy of all warriors. Lu Li did not have any Xian energy, and he had drunk the detoxifying tea in advance. He had a 70% to 80% chance of defeating a group of warriors whose Xian energy was messed up and whose fighting capacity was greatly reduced. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.